Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva, the OG Thunder Wizard. Alright, so I was thinking about what to talk about today, and it dawned on me that we've got this major astrological event going on right now, which is in a couple of days we are going to have a complete solar eclipse on the 14th of December. And you know, yesterday I came on and I did a video having to do about with the COVID-19 vaccine, and I was debunking some of the crazy conspiracy theories that unfortunately a lot of my viewers believe in. And I got really aggravated and I got really intense. So I ended up deleting that, taking that off, because while I want to definitely challenge your conspiracy theory mindset and help you to learn how to find out the truth, learn how to think critically and apply that to your personal life as well as your spiritual life, I didn't think that, you know, my attitude, you know, after I clicked off, I was still very, in fact, for the rest of that day, I was very agitated. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out what was going on until I realized that we were heading towards this massive shift, which is what this represents. So we are going to have a full solar eclipse on the 14th, which will be visible in the southern hemisphere above I think South America and South Africa. So I won't see it. If you're in the United States, you won't see it either. And so we need to talk about what this means. So anytime there's a solar eclipse, it's usually a big deal. There's usually some major shift that's going on, and you want to know whether or not it's Rahu or Ketu that's going to be controlling the eclipse. If it's Rahu controlling the eclipse, then what's going to happen, and in my experience, there's depending on you, depending on your consciousness, depending on your willingness to experience the truth, you're going to be on one of two extreme ends of this pendulum, which is, if it's Rahu that's in control of the eclipse, then your ego, your fantasies, your projections, things having to do with your ego related, for lack of a better word, grasping at, your fantasy about yourself, because Rahu represents your ambitions, but it also represents the part of you that's willing to throw away your soul in order to get whatever it is that you want. So there's an illusion there. Rahu creates an illusion. The other side of that is that you can become aware of what your selfish illusions are. Now, if it's Ketu, Rahu and Ketu are dealing with the same thing. They're flip sides of the same coin. Ketu represents ultimate truth. Now, when you hear me say the word ultimate truth, you might think, oh, that's very beautiful. In fact, Ketu is strongly associated with a tremendous spirituality. Monks that live in caves in the mountains and only have, a bear skin and a pair of diapers and a walking stick, and they walk around with a begging bowl. And you think, oh, how spiritual. Because Ketu's only interested in the truth. Ketu says, I don't care about this illusion. Rahu says, I'm all about the illusion. That's what we're here for. We're here to dive into this illusion. So let's create the best illusion we can. Ketu says, this whole thing is an illusion. Let's just get to the truth. And so he sets off a bomb wherever he goes. In fact, Ketu represents religious extremism and terrorism associated with religious extremism. Because a religious extremist terrorist will strap a bomb to themselves, walk in and blow themselves up in order to kill other people. That's what I mean. It's the extreme. It's like, what was the whole point? To make some you're trying to get people to get some understanding of truth, but you end up blowing yourself up in the process. Well, that's what I was doing yesterday. I came on yesterday, and I don't regret anything that I said. I regret that I was saying things which I know from experience are bad for my channel. Because here's the sad truth of the fact, is that a lot of my viewers and subscribers subscribe to beliefs that I think are absolutely ridiculous. I spend so much time dealing with people's victim mentality and their delusions, and so I'm happy to engage with that if my job is to help you come to the truth of the nature of the universe and your connection to it, to empower you. But what I was doing yesterday is I was just setting off a bomb, and I was blowing myself up and blowing up everybody with me. And like I said, I don't regret anything that I said. That's just not how my channel works. People don't come onto my channel. My channel is here to help people find the truth, and I have to have some compassion for the fact that they're attached. Many, not all of you certainly, but many people come on here are attached to these, conspiracy theory, fear-based nonsense, and they're trying to find the truth. And so my job is to try and help them. And if I have to put on the spiritual warrior and shake my finger at you to wake you up a little bit, I'll do that. So all of yesterday, I was so agitated and frustrated, and I do have things going on, like I'm applying for a new visa and other things like that, and I'm looking at some financial challenges for myself, and so that was bothering me, but not to that extent. So Ketu in Scorpio is going to become completely conjunct with the moon. With the sun. Of course, the moon too, because the solar eclipse is the moon getting in between you and the sun. So the symbolism is that the sun is your soul. The sun is ultimate truth. The sun is your soul, which is the only part of you that is the most real. That's the infinite shining light within you that when you pass away out of this illusory body and all of your mind and your the identity you think is you and all of that, when that passes away, the only thing that's left is the essence of you, the truth of you, which is the soul. And so what ends up happening is the moon gets between your perception, which is here on Earth. This is where the holodeck meets, and this is your avatar. You're in here having this 3D experience in virtual reality, three-dimensional Earth. And as long as you have a connection to your soul, that's a good thing. And that's really what all of my teachings are about. I'm trying to give you an opportunity to be connected to your deepest spiritual essence, and then make the most out of this virtual reality video game we call human life. And the idea is to not only progress spiritually, but to have the most fun you can possibly have. In order to do that, you got to get rid of your narcissistic, victim mentality garbage in order to be able to enjoy this. Because it's very sad. Listen, since we're talking about Ketu, let's just, there's been no shortage of people in my life whom I've known from childhood, whose lives I would say, from me, this is my limited perspective, if you were to ask me about their life, I would say it's a complete waste. Their life is a total waste. Speaking, about somebody I've known since childhood who is, as far as I know, if they're still alive, if this person is still alive, they've spent their whole life blaming everything and everybody else. They've done nothing with their life. They're now, if they're alive, they're homeless, old, sick, and they have nothing to look back on. They can't even look back on their life and go, when I was doing that, there's nothing. And of course, since I've known them from childhood, I look back on them and I can see the choices that they've made. And the choices that they've made is to stay in a state of victimhood and self-pity and narcissism. And it's easy for me to look at it and say, if you just continued to have made different choices, you'd be in a different place. And I've had no shortage of struggles in my life. I mean, I wouldn't wish my childhood or some of my issues on anybody. I'm not competing with any of you. Some of you have it worse than me. But I know that the one thing, when I look back on my life, the one thing that has made the difference has been my refusal to be a victim. That no matter how horrible things have gotten, I always seem to have the ability to stop and say, okay, I got myself here. Nobody did this to me. If I got myself into this, I can get myself out. And I always made the decision to trust and believe in the universe and in the power of the universe and to have a positive relationship with the universe. And I always chose to ask myself, how can I evolve? How can I evolve? Because I can't seem to shake the belief that this whole three-dimensional video game is here for me to conquer and succeed over my challenges so that I can be the happiest, most successful person I can possibly be. So I strive for that all the time. I refuse. I refuse to get old. I refuse to be ill. I refuse to be in pain. And it's not like I don't have to work to keep all that stuff. I have to work to keep my body strong and healthy and pain-free. I have to work to keep my mind and my emotions free from the illusion of self-pity and doubt and all the things all the stuff that you guys suffer from as well, I suffer from. If there is a difference between us, it just means that I've learned techniques to stay connected to the matrix in such a way that the matrix fuels me and empowers me, as opposed to what many people in the world, including myself and other points in my life, the experience of nothing ever works, and this is where all this comes from. And I said this, I don't know if I said it on this channel or my other channel, but I think I said it in this channel. So let me see, I forgot what I was going to say. If you can take all of your victim mentality beliefs. Now, a lot of you come to me with honest questions. This was one of the things I regret about yesterday. People came to me with honest questions about how can we trust anybody, and I went off on that. And it was because I was responding to, the frustration that I have. Because, let me finish my thought before I go off on a tangent. If you can replace your victim mentality, your favorite conspiracy theory, who you want to blame, let's be honest, conspiracy theories, whether they're true or not, conspiracies, people who have a strong connection to conspiracies are people who are trying to find something or someone else to blame for the problems in their life. Now, they may have legitimate problems in their life, and I'm not trying to take your problems away from you, or I'm not trying to talk you out of your feelings about them. In other words, you can feel angry, upset, frustrated, frightened, doubtful. You can have all of those feelings. You've been busting your ass your whole life to try and make it, in whatever area, and you found difficulty. I'm not going to talk you out of that. I'm not going to talk you out of your experience. If you allow me to, I can, and you let me work with you, I'm pretty certain I can find out how you're interfacing with your reality, your interface with the matrix is causing the problem. And if you are willing to let go of some of your ego attachments to the ideas that you have and adopt some new assumptions and then take some different actions and be able to tolerate the discomfort, the uncomfortable feelings, I feel very confident, because I have a 100% success rate with people who follow all of my instructions to the letter, I can help you get the best out of life. It's that simple. It's your interface with your beliefs and your beliefs about how the universe is functioning with you. And so if you take your favorite conspiracy belief, I won't even call it a theory, your conspiracy observation about the world, and let's be honest, you're upset with them because you think they're doing it to you. And you want to blame them for your problem, whatever that is. And if you can simply understand that feeling you have, if it's the government, if you're a Trump supporter and you believe that Biden stole the election, if you can take Biden and replace it with your mother or your father, then you will be able to fix the problem, because that's what it all is. If it's the government, if it's the Matrix, think about it. People only create conspiracy theories about people who they think have undue power over them, and they're actually fighting for their power back. They want their power back. You're trying to fight the vote, or you think that the vote was somebody stole your vote. Well, that's your freedom, and you're mad at somebody. You're going to say it's the elites. Listen to all of the garbage that's being floating around. It's the elites, and sometimes they don't even know who they are. People just say, in fact, yesterday I dealt with this, and it drove me crazy because people say, they. You use the word they all the time, or the system. You don't even know what you're talking about. You've just placed some authority figure, which you use the word they, or the elites, or the system, but you don't even know who they are. You might throw around some politician's name, or if you're like some people, you'll throw around anybody that's you'll say anybody who's a successful celebrity is a reptilian. But if you're able to understand that all of those authority figures that you think have all the power over you, on an unconscious level, what you've done is you've projected and transferred all of the feelings that you had towards your parents onto mythical, non-existent system, And the truth is that nobody's that powerful. That's why Hillary Clinton and the Queen are seen as alien overlord mighty super beings, because we know they're just human. They may have celebrity and status, but they're just human. And so the conspiracy of, Hillary Clinton did it to me, or the Queen did it to me, doesn't work when you realize, they're just human. So you have to turn them into evil alien overlord reptilian with the eating, not just that, but they eat babies, and you have to turn it into this completely unreal, so that you can justify to yourself, of course I'm victimized. Look at them. Look at how powerful they are. That is your mother and your father. It's happening on an unconscious level. Now, the psychology of this, everybody has this. When you are an infant, your parents are God. They are infinite gods. And they do have all the power. Not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. You need their love, because little babies, if you do not interact with little babies, like if you don't pick them up, if you don't talk to them, they die. Literally, they die. I'm sure I've shared about it, but I'll do it again. I don't know who it was. It was some king in England in the Middle Ages who wanted to find out what the original human language was. And the theory was that if you didn't teach a child how to speak English or French or whatever it is, that when they started to speak, it would be the original language. And so he wanted to find out if it was Hebrew, because that's, the religion of the day. People were saying that Hebrew was the true language. And so he wanted to see if that's what was going to happen. So he got a bunch of orphans, I guess, newborn babies, and then put them on an island with nuns who were their nurses, and he strictly, under the pain of death, told the nurses, you will not interact with these children. You will not speak with them. You will not interact with them except to feed them, keep them warm, and wipe their bottoms. Other than that, you will have zero connection with them. every single one of those infants died. They had all the best physical care, but because there was no emotional communication, holding, talking, even just baby talk, making sounds with them, because there was no interaction, the infants died. Anybody listening to me who has conspiracy theories, there are conspiracies out there, but you have conspiracy theories, it's because on some level your parents didn't meet that very basic need. And you're like one of those infants, you're scream crying for somebody to acknowledge that you exist and that you have worth and that you have value. And because you didn't get that to whatever degree, you have to find the person responsible for your pain. And that's going to be Hillary Clinton, or it's going to be Joe Biden, or it's going to be Trump, or it's going to be the system, or it's going to be the healthcare, or it's going to be the vaccine, or it's going to be, artificial intelligence. That's a perfect symbol, artificial intelligence. You know why people are so afraid of artificial intelligence? The truth is, artificial intelligence is nothing. I mean, we program it. It's not gonna become conscious. But think about it, the incredible, paranoia that your computer, that your phone will someday become self-aware and then will rule you. That's because when you were a kid, your experience was that your parents were these mindless robots who had no feelings, and you felt like you were the only person in the world who had emotions and feelings. And then you grow up and you become an adult, and you can't, on an unconscious level, you can't figure out why. What's good? It's them. It's the system. And then you start believing in QAnon. It's really quite pathetic. 40% of the population of the United States thinks that QAnon means something. And if they don't know that it's QAnon, they're buying into all these made-up stuff. It's where it's coming from. You're trying to get mommy and daddy to go, oh, there's my baby, and pick you up and hold you. That's what you're looking for. So Ketu is here. By the way, before we go any further, this is a question and answer. The best way to get a good interaction with me is to ask an honest question. If you do that, please write the word question, and then I will answer it. I'm already seeing nonsense being spewed, and I am doing everything in my power right now not to completely destroy you. And I may. Just bear in mind, if you're coming on here thinking that I'm going to co-sign your thing, if I respond to you, I am going to not do that. So we need to talk about Ketu. So Ketu is the south node of the moon, which represents complete, total spiritual connection. Now, Ketu and Rahu are destructive planets. So even though Ketu is the planet of highest spirituality, it means that wherever Ketu comes, he destroys your illusions like a bomb. This is why he is associated with religious extremist terrorists, people who blow themselves up in order to blow other people up to make some spiritual point. Well, that's the destructive side. If you don't have consciousness and Ketu comes in, you start to self-destruct. He destroys whatever illusions, even if it's something good like money or happiness or relationships. He'll destroy it in order to get you to realize, oh my God, this life is an illusion. And that the only way out is to find my true self. So what happens is the moon, which is your mind, not your brain or your intellect, but your mind. Your mind is your emotions and your ability to see things objectively. People who believe in conspiracy theories, all the nonsense, they don't have the ability to disconnect from their incredible infantile pain and look at, oh my God, well, no wonder I'm broke. I don't have a job. It doesn't give you the ability to look at things objectively. When the moon is is having difficulty shining the light of the soul onto you. The moon reflects the soul. The moon reflects the sun. The moon reflects the light of the soul which you contemplate. That's why the moon and the mind is about meditation. You know, the most popular symbol of meditation is the moon shining over a completely flat body of water. You know, and there's just this perfect reflection of the moon because the moon reflects. It meditates. You have to have elevation above the world to reflect, to look at the whole world and reflect. That is meditation. That's why the most well-known form of meditation is to emptiness meditation, Zen meditation, which is to not empty your mind, but to watch. To watch the thoughts, to watch the feelings without any attachment. That's looking at things objectively. When you have zero objectivity, then you don't know what's happening, which is this person right here, Rune X, who says there's no such thing as conspiracy theory. I don't know what that means. Does he mean that every theory is true? There's no theory, everything is a conspiracy? And then he says nothing to do with my parents? Well, then he doesn't have the basic understanding of all human beings, no matter how well emotionally, psychologically evolved you are. Your parents were the first and most powerful beings, and if you don't understand that, then you are the most lost, in denial person there is, which would make sense because then you'll believe every conspiracy theory that comes your way. If you are in that much denial over how much impact your parents had on you, then you're not going to even have the slightest bit of ability to comprehend anything illusory in your world, which is what the nodes of the moon are. They have to do with your illusions. Rahu wants to pull you in to your illusions and say your illusions are everything. Ketu says your illusions are nothing. I will destroy you if you hold on to them. Which is why I put this picture of, you know, these two worlds coming into collision there. I think that's the moon. I don't know who that is. But that's really what's happening here with Ketu coming into this point, and it's in a Gandanta, which is in between the water and fire signs of Scorpio, which is water, and Sagittarius, which is fire. And they're both very deeply spiritual signs, and so you get this clash of fire and water, which is what happens is, you know, now we've got am I saying that right? I could be saying that wrong. It's in Scorpio. Yes, anyway. I don't know. I think I got my things mixed up there. Point being, this is going to be intense when it's in a Gandanta point like this. When it's in a Gandanta, which means the collision between fire and water, it becomes very intense. So your Ketu, which says, I'm gonna destroy your illusions. I'm gonna get you back to the truth of your essence. What's going to happen and what is happening right now. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to try and stay as neutral as I can, but no matter what side of this you're on, you're going to agree with me. What will happen in the United States in this, you know, holiday period, you know, between now and, you know, probably the first few months or the first year after whoever takes office in January, is going to determine the soul of the United States. And there is a very real possibility that the United States is, it's not going to, it is in a constitutional crisis. Constitutional crisis means that the Constitution, which says, you know, free elections and this and that and the right of the people and, you know, all of those things are being not only tested, there is an active attempt of a coup. Now, the military hasn't gotten involved yet, which is, you know, it's a good thing that there aren't people who have control of the military yet. But there are politicians that if they had control of the military, there would be a coup. In fact, the first thing that General Michael Flynn did after being pardoned by Trump for being convicted for lying to the FBI, the first thing he did, within moments of being pardoned, the first thing he did was he suggested very strongly to Donald Trump that he declare martial law and overturn the election. Basically, that he become tyrant. There was an active suggestion that he should have a coup and take over the government. And that would mean the end of democracy. That would mean the end of the Constitution, because, I could get into that. But there is a constitutional crisis right now. And the lack of trust in the electoral system could very well end the democracy of the United States. Because what's going to happen next time there's an election? If nobody wants to believe anything, and if you're right, you really can't trust the electoral process, then popular election, which is what the Constitution is built on. The Constitution is built on a free press and the ability for each, the majority rule through election to elect people and create laws and things like that. And when that no longer works, you don't have a democracy anymore. That's just the fact of the matter. And if people don't trust the system, then it won't work. Then the only thing left to do is install a dictator, and which is going to create civil war. There could be a civil war in the United States over which side gets to rule the world, right? So this is Ketu. Ketu is coming in here and saying, okay, you believe in that there's this thing called democracy. You believe that democracy has power. It's like a deity and it has power. It doesn't. Democracy hinges on one thing. It hinges on a gentleman's agreement. Two people are sitting there, like when you start a football game, right? And you agree that, whoever calls it, you call it in the air. However the thing lands, that's what we're going to do. Now, you call heads, the other guy calls tails, and it turns out to be tails. Your heads didn't. You can't just go, no, I don't like that. No, you have to suck it up. You lost the coin toss. If you agree that it's going to be majority rules and we're going to vote on it, and even if it's 51 to 49, the 51 get it, even if you don't like it. It's a gentleman's agreement. But if the 49% decide, hey, I don't like the outcome of that at all, no, then it's no longer a democracy. Or if you don't believe it, if in fact the other side cheats, then it's not a democracy anymore. And Ketu is saying, do you really believe that this democracy is real? Let me show you how flimsy this thing is. It's all based on a gentleman's agreement. And if you don't respect each other and are willing to abide by whatever the rules that both of you agreed on, then there's war. That's it. That's what Ketu brings. And so that's one example. That's happening that's the collective unconscious. This is why solar eclipses are a big deal, because they are about the collective unconscious of the world. And so you'll see things like this. In fact, pretty much you go back to any time there's been solar eclipse, it's in special circumstances, you've seen major things happen. Major, huge upheavals happen all over the world. Your world is going to go through a crisis, depending on what's going on in your chart. Your beliefs are going to go through a crisis. And you're going to have to dig deep to find the eternal truth within yourself. And I suggest to do that without fear. I suggest that you do that without fear. People who have conspiracy theories are run by their fear. The thing about conspiracy theories is that, what's really mind-blowing about it, like let's take the conspiracy, I talked about it yesterday, about the COVID vaccine. And I shared with you some woman who is a gynecologist. A gynecologist came and said, here's what's happening with the vaccine. And If you know anything about medicine, a gynecologist is not trained in immunology, does not know how to create vaccines. It's a whole other, and a guy who creates vaccines doesn't necessarily know anything about gynecology. Here's a gynecologist, and she was talking all of the conspiracy nonsense about how it puts heavy metals in you, which turns your body into an antenna, which then will upload directly to the cloud. And then when they put that in you, there's going to be little tiny robots that are going to electronically send signals about your heartbeat and your all this stuff. It's like it's monitoring your whole, and then it's going to send that to the cloud, and there's going to be somebody who can control you. I mean, it was nonsense. It was pure. It was pure science fiction. There was zero science involved, and all it took was, I put a link to a guy who actually explains. No, here's what here's what the vaccine actually does. But nobody watches that. But everybody, is really, because there's this fear. The fear of mommy and daddy are doing it to me, which you don't know that's what you're feeling. What you're feeling is mommy and daddy are doing it to me. Mommy and daddy don't love me. And so instead of being conscious of that because you're, not an infant anymore, you look to anybody else that you think has authority. And you see them as controlling you. So there's no way to have that without there being fear. The question is, is your fear justified or not? And that takes critical thinking, which I'm not going to get into right now. So as we go into this, let me talk to you about what is most important. What is most important for your spiritual progress? What is most important as you reach this collision of worlds within you? What is most important for you spiritually? So for that, I guess I wasn't telling the truth. I said we weren't going to talk about critical thinking, but critical thinking is not just important for understanding law, economics, science. Critical thinking is extremely important for all that. Critical thinking is important just to have a relationship. In order to have a relationship with another person, you have to be able to trust your ability to interpret what somebody is saying to you. There's a mental illness called borderline personality disorder. And in terms of relationships, the person who suffers from borderline personality disorder cannot accurately interpret their partner's thoughts, feelings, actions, and intentions. And so they swing wildly between two extremes. They either are madly in love with the person, they are the most perfect person in the world, and then literally, the drop of a hat, because the person, moves their eyebrow or looks at their watch or says something, they will flip and then decide that person is trying to kill me, and they'll come up with a conspiracy theory about how you've been trying to destroy my life, and it'll happen in a nanosecond. So the other person is like, what? I looked at my watch. What are you talking about? And the person with BPD will say, no, you looked at your watch because you hate me and you couldn't stand what I was telling you, and you know that you hate me and you've been trying to kill me for the past 6 months, and then they'll do really crazy things. And that means in order, the basic problem is that on a fundamental level, there is a lack of critical thinking. There's a lack of an ability to interpret the information that's coming to you. And so in spirituality, you must have critical thinking. You must be able to objectively know what your emotional agendas are. And if you don't know on a fundamental level that your emotional agenda is to get mommy and daddy to love you, which is everybody's emotional agenda, like it or not. A healthy person can parent themselves internally. A healthy person, when they have fear, when they have doubt, when they have whatever it is, they have the ability to nurture themselves and say, it's okay, you have this fear, we'll work it out. If you don't have that, then the slightest fear, you turn into a borderline, and everything turns into this massive conspiracy to destroy you. And then you, ironically, then seek to destroy everything and everybody else in your life. So in order to spiritually evolve, you must know, am I seeking to escape my pain? Am I seeking to obliterate and stuff down my fear? Am I motivated by feelings of doubt and insecurity and unworthiness? Do I believe, for instance, do you believe that the universe is fundamentally bent on your destruction? Christianity believes that exactly that. They believe that the universe is the devil and that God is above the universe and that the universe is conspiring to steal your soul. So you can't trust anything or anybody unless they happen to have your same religion. All the conspiracy theories about aliens and overlords and all that comes from that same belief that the universe is out to destroy me. I can't even trust the beings of light. I can't even trust the gods. They're lying to me. We're talking spiritual borderline personality disorder. You can't trust anything anybody says. Yesterday, when I was doing my thing, people were asking questions like, how can I trust anything or anybody? Complete lack of critical thinking. Because critical thinking starts with the awareness that, you know what, I have emotional agendas. I have fears. I have desires. Now, if you're taught as a little child, as an infant, or anywhere in childhood, if you're taught that your feelings, that you're not allowed to have feelings, like if you weren't allowed to cry, if you weren't allowed to be angry at your parents, if you weren't allowed to be afraid, if you weren't allowed to be sad, and on some level, everybody's got some dysfunction there. The extreme is when you're crying in front of your dad and he says, you better stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. Right? That's trying to shame you out of your feelings. Now, the survival mechanism of that is when you're shamed out of your feelings, you can't stop your feelings. Your feelings cannot be stopped. So then what ends up happening is that you turn those negative feelings, your sadness, your rage, your fear, you turn them on yourself. Because your parents, who are supposed to be the person to help you navigate those and teach you how to self-parent, they didn't learn that. So you end up then beating your parents to the punch by judging yourself, hating yourself, shaming yourself. That gets pushed inward. Now, people can't tolerate that either. You can't tolerate hating yourself. So what you do is you project it out. So this is where people get the belief that aliens or alien lizards are running the world. Because that's really how they feel about themselves. There's this giant lizard inside of them that's shaming them out of their feelings, and so they end up projecting it out, and then it makes sense. Then you can explain why you feel that way. None of this is happening on a conscious level. But it takes critical thinking to first go, all right, what is it that I truly want? I'm sad, I'm afraid, I'm lonely, I'm scared. So you start with those and then you own those feelings. Because if you do not have the ability, whenever any belief system is given to you, alien overlords are running the universe and they want to feed off of your soul. If you don't have the ability to have the critical thinking to go, how do I feel about that? If you like that idea, when I tell you that alien lizard overlords are running the universe and they want to feed on your soul, if your response is, yeah, oh my God, that's so true. They've been lying to us this whole time. If that's your emotional agenda, it means you like that idea. It means you have an emotional attachment to that idea, which is why if I say to you, no, there aren't any lizard beings out there. The only lizard being is in your own reptilian brainstem, your fight or flight. It means that you're in a fear crisis state all the time and you're projecting that onto your world. If I say that to you and you get angry at me, you say, no, you don't understand. You need to do your research. Here's 100 videos from YouTube that tells me this is true. You have to watch that. Don't you dare threaten my belief in the fact that I'm being victimized by these alien. If you have a reaction to that, it means that you have an emotional attachment to that. Now, I have an emotional attachment to the idea of the universe loving me and treating me like a king and treating me like a god on earth. I have an emotional, I'm telling you, that's my emotional agenda. I like that. Now, my critical thinking has said, well, let's try it out. So this is where I come up with the Shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life, where I teach you the first thing you do is assume, regardless of what you think and what you feel, you assume that the universe loves you and wants to empower you. You just have to figure out how to interact with it in such a way where it will do that for you. That's your base assumption. So I don't like that being taken away from me. I have a visceral, I get angry. Like I did yesterday. I get angry when people want to shove down my throat all of these conspiracy theories, which don't have any, there's no proof for any of it. That angers me because you're threatening my emotional agenda to be a successful, happy, evolved God walking the earth. That's my emotional agenda. Now, why would somebody take a belief of inferiority? Why would somebody choose to, number one, believe that there are beings out there that won't even allow you to escape this earth and go and be a soul? They're standing there, these beings of light guarding you from infinity. Why would somebody even want to believe that? None of that sounds like any fun. Why wouldn't they, when I come along and say, no, that's not true, in actuality, it's quite the opposite. Why don't they with relief go, oh, thank you. Finally, somebody, I've been waiting for an escape and you just gave it to me. They don't do that. They get mad at me. They get mad at me for giving them the key to unlock their freedom. Why do they do that? Because they're trying to keep their parents alive. Because when you're an infant, you not only need your parents to survive, but they are God to you. So you actually give all of your loyalty to them. If you know about Jehovah, Jehovah has said, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And if you worship any other gods, I won't kill you, I will torture you forever. Jehovah says very, very clearly in the Old Testament, he says, if you love me, you follow every single one of my commandments. And if you follow every single one of my commandments, I will therefore bless you with this and that and the other thing. And then he doesn't say, and if you don't worship, if you don't follow all of my commandments, if you get, he doesn't say, if you get 98% of them, then I'll give you 98% of my love. He doesn't do that. He says, if you don't follow all of my commandments, I will hate you. In fact, he says, if you don't follow all of my commandments, you hate me. And if you hate me, then bear in mind when he says you hate me, he means I only got 99% of the commands right. I missed 1% because I'm human. If you miss 1% of the, and you get all the other 99 right, it means, according to Jehovah, that you hate him. So you must give complete and total loyalty to Jehovah, or he will hate you. This is what happens when you're an infant. When you're an infant and you don't get all the love that you need from your parents, you then go to complete total loyalty to them. And what happens is you turn into an adult. And now you have the opportunity to shake off whatever shame you were programmed with and decide, you know what, I'm going to rewrite my whole life. And people try and do this. This is why I've been on this planet I've been on this planet 57 years. And I've watched that right around the age of 30, Trust me. Watch all your friends. If you're 20 years old right now, and all of your friends are rebels and they're out doing their own thing and they're partying, and yeah, forget about that. I'm a bohemian. I'm a neo hippie. Watch what happens in 10 years. Because what's going to happen between now and 30 is that the majority of your friends are going to turn into their parents. I watched it happen. They're going to turn into your parents, and they're going to end up they're going to have kids, and they're going to turn into whatever political party you don't like, and they're going to be all about, they're going to sound like your parents. And what ends up happening is that, trying to get your own autonomy is fun until then you start running into the realization that you're about to really become an adult. And then all of your loyalty to your parents kicks in. Because if you continue, those of you who believe in conspiracy theories, here's what I'm going to tell you. I want you to listen. Those of you who believe in conspiracy theories, if you were to drop all of your fear-based conspiracy theories right now, what would happen on an unconscious level is that you would feel you were killing your parents. Worse than that, you would feel on an unconscious level that you were killing God. The guilt would be overwhelming. Now, this is unconscious, meaning you're not consciously aware of it. Those of you that say, I didn't do that, I'm my own person. Consciously, you think you are. Unconsciously, what you're not aware of is that you are absolutely a slave to making your parents happy. And if your parents were dysfunctional and you're trying to live your own life and be happy, you have to go through the collision of worlds where you have to make the decision between your soul and making your parents feel, that you still worship them. And it feels like it's killing you. That's why when I tell people, no, there isn't any lizard beings out there, and there aren't any, false beings of light stopping you from being your true self. That's why instead of them going, really? Oh my God, thank you. I feel so much better now. They go, no, that's not true. You don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm a total slave and I can't accomplish anything. And you're a shill and you're lying to me. And here's 100 videos from YouTube, and here's a bunch of unverified flat earth stuff. Why you haven't done your research? You need to watch 100 of my videos, and then I'll tell you that you've done your research. But don't tell me to watch other videos by scientists, because you can't trust them anyway, because they're part of the whole thing. Can you see my brain exploding? They go into so much effort to protect their victim mentality, and you don't know why they do that. They do that because they're afraid if they get their own autonomy, they'll kill their parents. That's the fear. They're afraid their parents, and they love their parents. Now, they'll tell you they hate their parents, but in reality, they love them, and they want to worship them. They wish mommy and daddy would love them. So this is what Ketu is coming, and this is shown right now in the politics of the United States. Perfect example. And people don't know. This is the saddest part of all of it. The saddest part is people don't know who to believe. They don't have the critical thinking to first go, what is that person's emotional agenda in telling me this? Do I have an emotional agenda in hearing it? And then asking the three questions of when is something true and when is something false? Oh, that's actually false what that person is saying. When is something sometimes true and sometimes false? Well, what he's saying is true some of the time, but he can't make a blanket statement. When is something partially true and partially false? Well, that's what that person is saying, is that's part of that is true, but not the whole thing. He's making a blanket statement, and he's trying to, and my emotional reaction is to want to buy into that blanket statement. So let's take a look at it objectively. You don't have the ability to do that because nobody's taught you. And so people, when they're asked, should I believe Fox News or should I believe MSNBC about the vote? They go, I don't know who to believe. That's the saddest part of all of it. This is what Ketu is coming to you and saying, you know the truth. Are you willing to die to your loyalty to your abusive, ignorant parents? Are you willing to die to your emotional attachment to all of your friends who are into all this stuff. I mean, I've had people say that to me as well. I've challenged some people on this, and they'll go, well, what? You don't believe your friends? So you're telling me, so what they're saying is being accepted by my friends is more important to me than actually knowing the truth. Flat Earth Society is a perfect example. Got all these people, they believe that. All my friends are into it. All my friends are into the flat earth. And so if I don't pretend I'm into it, then I won't be part of the crowd. I won't have any friends. Nobody will smoke weed with me. Sit around and smoke weed and talk about how NASA, for some reason none of us can figure out, is trying to lie to you about whether the earth is flat or not. I'm still trying to figure out what the payoff in that is. That's what I mean. There's no rationality to it, which means that if there's no rationality, there's no critical thinking. If there's no critical thinking, it means that there's some unconscious weird issue going on with you and your parents. All right. So let's take a look. I'm really interested in your questions, but I may entertain your statements if you're willing to have me pull your pants down psychologically in front of the whole world. If you're willing to do that, then go ahead. Say whatever the hell you want. Infinite 369, you've been on my channel for a while, and you haven't followed the basic request that I keep asking. And that's offensive to me. I keep telling you, if you want to ask a question, you write the word question. Also, ask me questions that I teach about. You say, is reptilian is real? And I've already told you that numerous times. So think about it. Think about what you remember, what I've said. I've already given you the answer. Okay, what else? Veronica Secret says, the only successful celebrity reptilian I know of is Mike Denny. Well, that's true. I'm the only reptilian that's telling you the truth. None of them will do it. Yeah, I already talked about Rune X is in denial. He says nothing to do with my parents. He doesn't say what nothing to do. Here's the other thing that really drives me crazy about this. People don't actually put context to their comments or their questions. They throw it out as if they're the only person, that there's just me and them, and that I know exactly what part of what sentence in the middle of this 2-hour diatribe they know I'm talking about. That I know what they're talking about, and of course I don't. And that shows a lack of an ability to, just common decency of letting people know the context and writing in full sentences and, all of that. So I already talked about that. Ed the Wave, probably, I'm assuming in response to my comment about AI, let's just show what it is here. But I'm sure I'm going to think it's ridiculous. He says, fundamentally, computers only do it. Okay, no, I'm in full agreement with him now. Fundamentally, computers only do what we tell them. If they harm us, it's because we program that way. Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. My apologies. I judged him prematurely. Dakota Spruill, question, are you going to do a ritual on the day of the eclipse? I do a ritual every day. So the answer to that question is yes. Gert Van Zyl, question, can KETU, can KETU let you be an alcoholic to hide your pain? What do you mean, can he let you? I don't understand that. What are you asking? Doesn't make any sense. Can KETU let you be an alcoholic? Are you asking me that you want to be an alcoholic to hide your pain? Are you talking about somebody else? That is a strange question. If you want me to help you, I've got to find out why you're asking the question. That question doesn't make any sense to me at all. So try and rewrite it in a way we'll all understand. Why are you asking? Runex, question, there we go. Did you know that, okay, whenever somebody says, did you know that? That's not, an honest question is when you ask me a question that you don't know. You want to ask me something because you don't know. Just that tells me that you're trying to shove something down my throat, but let's see. Did you know that KETU rules over the viruses in the body? Have you ever wondered if KETU is metaphorical for biological processes? That's not an honest question. You're making a statement. So I'm not even going to bother with it. NG, question. It's hard not to go to sleep with a feeling of fear in my chest. Okay, so So the two things that I look for are if you ask me an honest question or if you share an honest feeling. Because even though I may have a lot of thoughts about that, that is a statement of an honest fact of here's how I feel. And I can't argue anybody out of their feelings. So now maybe I can do something to help this person. It's hard not to go to sleep with a feeling of fear in my chest. I ensure to do a certain meditation that tells me to say change whenever an unwanted feeling comes. Is there power in my emotions? All right, so your question, is there power in my emotions, isn't really what you're asking. NG, here's the problem. You cannot make your feelings go away. This is really kind of the crux of what Ketu is bringing to this whole scenario right now. There's nothing wrong with having fear. Okay? I don't judge anybody for whatever their feelings are. So I don't judge you for having fear. What I judge you for, if I judge you, is when you take actions on those fears. So your actions are what's important, not your feelings. Now, if our parents had done their job right, when you're afraid and you go to mommy and daddy and you say, I'm scared, mommy and daddy picks you up and holds you and say, it's okay to be afraid. It's normal. We're all afraid. What are you afraid of? I'm afraid of the monster in my closet. Oh, that could be so scary. He doesn't say, there's no monster in the closet, you stupid moron. He goes, oh my God, that would be so scary that there's a monster in the closet. You know what? Let's go look at it. I'll protect you, but let's go look together. And it says, okay, yeah, would you please? And you open up the closet and you go, see, it's right there. And you go, oh, no, that's a shadow. Look, it's a shadow from the shirts and the pants that are hanging. And then the kid sees and then what's really happening there is that mommy and daddy are saying it's okay to have your feelings. Now, when you grow up and you've been programmed that way, when you have fear in your chest, you don't then try and kill the feeling, which is interesting. Two questions. Somebody asks, is it okay to become an alcoholic to hide your pain? I mean, how can I say yes to that? Seriously, how can anybody say yes to that? And then the next one is, it's hard not to go to sleep with a feeling of, I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm really coming back on Gert. I really want to encourage you, Gert, to ask questions from your feelings. Really, seriously, that's really not what you want to ask me. You want to ask me about your pain. You want to ask me about how to overcome your pain. You really don't want to ask me, is it okay to be an alcoholic? That's really not your question. Or maybe you're codependent and you're talking, is it okay that somebody else is an alcoholic? Should I just let my husband be an alcoholic? You're asking one of those two questions, and I'd prefer that you get honest. So I want to help you with that. Okay, NG's question. The question really isn't about that. The question is, how do you tolerate your feelings? So your technique here, I don't think is the best technique. Your technique when you say that when you have feelings, if I hear this right, let me see. Unsure. Oh, you're unsure. So you're unsure to do a certain meditation. Oh, I got it. Okay. I didn't read that right because I think there might be an English issue here. So you're trying to say, I am unsure if I should do a certain meditation, which you're supposed to say change, the word change, whenever you have an unwanted feeling. That's just denial. If you have a feeling, you go change, you're shaming yourself out of your feeling. So even though it sounds really spiritual, a bad feeling comes up and you go change. Different feeling. As if your feelings are not connected to something. Your feelings are coming from something. There's a thought process going on in your unconscious mind that when that thought goes through, that creates a fear in you. You don't know. You think, I just have this fear in my chest. It's coming from nowhere. It's not. It's coming from your unconscious. Unconscious meaning you're not aware of it. Meaning that whatever it is, the thought is so intolerable or it's so deeply ingrained, you have learned to push it deep down into your unconscious where you're not consciously aware of it. So all you're trying to do is trying to change the thought as it comes in, but you haven't changed the actual fundamental belief or programming that continuously causes the thought, which creates the fear. So it's all about becoming consciously aware of yourself, which is what meditation is about. Meditation, the meditation that says change is just denial. It's not a meditation. You're just trying to do this mental trick to deny yourself out of your fear. And that is actually self-abuse. That is exactly the same as if you went to your father as a 4-year-old and said, "Daddy, I'm afraid." And Daddy says, "You better stop being afraid or I'll slap that fear right out of you." So you go, okay, I'm not afraid. Okay, change, I'm not afraid. So you learned how to do that. You learned how to talk yourself, shame yourself out of your fear. You think you're doing this meditation of, I'm just changing these random thoughts. So we are emotional beings. We're emotional beings based on our programming. These things aren't arbitrary that just fly into our head. They're coming from you. You have to change yourself if you want to change those thoughts. But it starts with first going, wow, what am I afraid of? It's okay to be afraid. What am I afraid of? And you go, your 4-year-old goes, "Daddy, I'm afraid." Daddy says, "Really? What are you afraid of?" You say, "I'm afraid of my closet." Now, as an adult, if you say, "I'm afraid of my closet," that's going to bring shame, so you don't admit that you're afraid of the dark. But as a little kid, you don't know any better. So as an adult, if you've been programmed well, which most of us haven't, then you'll go, wow, why am I so afraid? And you want to love yourself. You want to go, what am I afraid of? And then you want to be able to comfort yourself in that. So no, that meditation isn't something I would recommend. And you ask, is there power in my emotions? Of course there are power in your emotions. You're an emotional being. Everything you do is based on your emotions. The question is whether or not you have the consciousness to take the action towards what's helpful for you as opposed to just simply responding to your impulses. Your impulse is to deny your feelings. That's not a healthy impulse. I understand it. Nobody likes to feel any uncomfortable feelings, but it's not a healthy impulse to just simply try and deny your feelings. It's not helpful. What else? Dakota Spruill question, how can you brace yourself before Kept comes? You mean Ketu. I can feel it. Again, listen to that. It's the same question. You're asking the same question. I don't like the way that I feel. So when I started this video, I came on and I gave an admission that I didn't like the way that I was interacting with people, that afterwards I felt like I was operating from my impulses. I wasn't really operating, even though, like I said, I don't regret anything that I said yesterday. But, in fact, 90% of it I don't regret. But I regret that looking back on it, I was very emotionally reactive. And I didn't have the ability to have the distance to go, okay, I'm having a lot of feelings about this. What's the most constructive action right now? But I didn't beat myself up over it. I went, wow, what is that about? And I spent all day in meditation trying to think about it. I found an external stimulation for it, which was, what's happening astrologically with this upcoming solar eclipse. But the solar eclipse didn't do it to me. It's just stimulating what's already there inside of me. So I love myself. And so because I love myself, I want to know what all of my thoughts and feelings are. And I want to nurture myself through it and help talk myself into positive actions. So what you're saying here is, how can you brace yourself before Ketu comes? I can feel it. You don't protect yourself from it. You go, wow, what an interesting opportunity I have to really look at myself. All of my fears and my illusions and my self-destructive negative programming is going to come into play. I really want to take a look at myself. This is why, in Vedic astrology, they recommend that when it comes to doing rituals, you do rituals You do mantra and rituals to the gods. You spend, if you don't want to, if it's during the day, and like some Vedics won't go out and be touched by that, they'll stay inside and light candles and they'll pray and they'll do mantras throughout the whole thing, because that's an opportunity to be in your most conscious mind, to be able to look at what's being stimulated. So you don't want to brace yourself. You want to embrace it and love yourself through the awareness that's going to come up. Just be prepared that uncomfortable feelings may come to the surface. You may become really frightened, but you'll find out what you're afraid of. You'll find out what the delusion is, where your false ego is, where your false humility is. You'll find out all this stuff if you stay open to it. Don't run away from it, though. Rune X, question, is COVID real? First makes me want to ask you, where do you live? Because if you live in some place like New York or Los Angeles, you don't have to ask that question. Seriously, you're being told by the media, you're being told by various independent news organizations. People call the media. There is no the media. There's a bunch of independent news organizations. Some of them are telling you the truth and some aren't. Fox News. But you're being told that on a daily basis, a 9/11 is happening. 3,000 people a day right now are dying from COVID in the United States. 200,000 a day are getting sick with it. Now, the only reason you ask, is it real, is if you live somewhere where you're not surrounded by people who are getting it. And I can promise you that people in big cities are surrounded by people who are getting it. And I know just right off the bat, two of my friends in Los Angeles this past week got it. So you answer that question yourself. Again, I'm really holding back because I want to tear you a new one for asking such a ridiculous question. Because if you are in a big city and you are being surrounded by people who are getting it, then what is going on that you would even ask that question? Early on during the pandemic, even though it was conspiracy, fear-based nonsense, people were talking about that COVID was the plandemic, it was all made up. But that was early on. It's been going on for a year now, and unless you don't have eyeballs in your head, or unless you're living in the middle of the woods somewhere in North Idaho, then you're aware of what's happening. All right. Edith, or Ed the Wave. I keep wanting to call you Edith. Edith Wave. No, it's Ed the Wave. Says, question, is it possible to do astrology readings for countries? Yes. Or non-persons? Yes. Like reading USA as a person? Yes. It's done all the time. You can do it for presidency, for example. If you just take the exact time when so-and-so gets sworn in, you can look at the astrology of their presidency. You can, all kinds of things. You can do astrology for your business. A lot of people get Vedic astrological advice. Don't come to me because I don't know how to do this. But they get Vedic astrological advice from people who will tell you what is the best day to start your business, because they can tell on that day, based on your chart, and et cetera, and what's going on, boom, this will be a good day to have be successful in your business. If you didn't do that, you can look back on the day that you started your business, and then you can find out ways to improve it, because you'll find out what the deficits are within that and the strengths, et cetera, et cetera. So the short answer to that question is yes. Gert, I want to ask you a favor. You did this last time. Stop talking to other people on this. I mean, I can't control what you do, but I don't recommend that you start these flame wars with people while I'm having the question and answer. Stop it. You're just that bothersome neighbor that won't stop getting out of people's business. Okay, Rune X, is your last chance. If you're disrespectful to me, I'm going to block you. If you don't like what I have to say, plenty of other channels, you can go watch them. So if I scroll down here and I see another personal attack, or if I see you attacking me on a personal level, I'm going to block you. I don't have any space for your nonsense. If, like I said, if you didn't come on here because you think I have something to share with you, then you should be doing other things with your time than trolling people you don't agree with. Tara Furnace questions. I have South Node Ketu in Cancer and Sun in Taurus. Do they affect all signs the same way? So you have Ketu in Cancer. I don't know what house. I don't know anything else. So you give me you could have just asked, does Ketu affect all signs the same way? I mean, that's your question. The answer, of course, is no. Every sign and every placement and every house is going to have different effects and different aspects. So I can't do anything with that information, and I wouldn't, that's too much time. I'd have to look at your whole chart and type it up. So short answer is, do they affect all signs the same way? No, of course not. They don't. NG question, can anarchy ever work? I don't understand that. Why are you asking that question? Are you an anarchist or are you against anarchy? I'm far more interested in your emotional attachment than in these kinds of broad questions. Can anarchy ever work? Not communist anarchy. Can the idea of no rules, no slaves be a real thing? Of course, many people think they're wage slaves, so there's more than one form of slavery. The essence of what you're talking about is pure fear-based insecurity. You don't extremes on both sides. By the way, they're the same thing. It's like a ball, and if you go completely to one extreme and the other person goes completely to the other extreme, they end up in the exact same place. So the fascist and the anarchist are the same thing, because you had Hitler, who was a tyrant, and you have Lenin, who was a tyrant, and one was on the right and one was on the left, and they fought each other in a war. But they ended up in the same exact thing. You didn't have a free press. You had to be told what to do and where to go. And if you didn't follow what the government told you to do, you got locked up or put into prison and or shot or something like that. So it's the same thing. I'm trying to find out, what you haven't told me is I like the idea of anarchy. I'm far more interested in knowing why you like anarchy, but I already know because you're afraid. You're afraid that somebody's going to take your freedom away, so you want extreme freedom. Anarchy means no rules, but no rules isn't freedom. Because if there were anarchy, nobody'd be able to drive their car. There has to be rules. Here in Australia, you drive on the left side of the street. It took me 6 months to figure that out. Because every time I'd have to get in my car, and I had to make sure that I wasn't too tired or too anything to get in the car, because if I did, especially like if I got in the car, at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, I'd just automatically drive on the right side of the road, and then there'd be a car coming at me. And I have to remember to drive on the left side. I have to tell myself, left side of the road, left side of the road. You have to follow the rules. There's no such thing as anarchy, because if I'm a true anarchist, I say, no, drive on whatever side you want. Don't tell me what side of the road to drive on. Don't tell me to wear a mask. That's inconvenient for me. That's anarchy. And, rules in a free society, rules are about protecting your freedom and other people's freedom. And so rules keep you from taking other people's freedoms away, and they protect you from other people taking your freedoms away. So there's no such thing as anarchy and rules. And if anarchy means that there is no freedom, because that means anybody can do anything they want to you at any time, because there's no rules. But this is what I mean. I mean, that's obvious. Little children understand that. So the need to try and pretend to be an anarchist shows that you're so afraid, that you're so insecure, that you don't want anybody telling me what to do ever, and I'll commit violence against you to hold on to that. And the other side, the far right, Somebody who claims that they're on the far right, but they believe in gun rights, or that they should be able to carry a semi-automatic machine gun wherever they go. Don't take away my rights, or the people on the far right, talk about freedom, but yet they're the ones that want to limit choice. They want to limit sexual choice, religious choice, political choice. They want to, they want to get rid of people that aren't of the same ethnicity that they are. This is the far right, which in the far right and the far left end up coming together. The same thing. Dakota Spruill. Okay, let's see what else. What else? Gert Van Zyl. So whenever you put a cuss word in there, YouTube takes it out. So Gert Van Zyl says, I must say you messed with my mind last night, but you made me think today. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. NG says, sometimes I don't know where my ideas begin and another thought become my own. Is there a way to have my own ideas that are not influenced by other people? No. Was that formed by mommy and daddy? Yes. Of course, you are your own person, but mommy and daddy laid the groundwork. We all have it. The whole basic point of life is to try and individuate yourself from mommy and daddy and be your own person without having to react. Because people who are rebellious, like for instance, here's a good example, Satan worshipers, people who worship Satan. Now, the truth is that most Satan worshipers don't worship the Satan of the Bible. The Satan of the Bible is this evil being that only wants your destruction and is just simply rebelling against Jehovah and is going to take it out, is going to triangulate by taking it out on you and trying to deceive you and harm you. And he only has your destruction in mind. They don't worship him. They worship the antithesis to the tyrant God, Jehovah, which I am in full agreement with them that Jehovah is simply worshiping the tyrannical, narcissistic ego. People who worship Jehovah are worshiping their own narcissism. I'm in full agreement with that. But they then go on to claim, and many of them are atheists, which is ironic, but they go on to claim that, no, I don't believe in Jehovah, and I'm going to prove it to you because now I worship the devil. But the devil is a creation of the whole Abrahamic Jehovah religion. You can't have a Lucifer without a Jehovah. So to say I don't believe in Jehovah and I'll prove it by worshiping the devil is ironic, because it's impossible. I mean, if you really say I don't believe in Jehovah, then you can't believe in Lucifer either. You realize they're both nonsensical, so you just throw them both out. That's what somebody who's individuated. But if you're not individuated, meaning you don't have your own identity, then what ends up happening is that on an unconscious level, you still believe in Jehovah, you just don't like him, and you want to rebel against him. So you're going to find the one thing he hates the most, which is the devil, and now I'm going to worship the devil. See? You really still believe in him. So you're lying to yourself when you say, I don't believe in Jehovah, I worship Satan. It's impossible. It's like saying, I don't believe in Jehovah, I worship Jehovah. It's impossible. So having your own ideas, having your own ideas, having your own, let me say, I'm trying to put this back to you, something about your question. So is there any way that your ideas are not influenced by other people? No, but the idea is that when you become fully individuated within yourself, you have then the ability, again, critical thinking. When is something true and when is something false? When is something partially true and partially false? When is something sometimes true and sometimes false? I like to believe that I do a pretty good job of doing that. For instance, yesterday we were talking about the COVID vaccine, and I was saying, look, I haven't done enough research yet because there hasn't been enough information released on what exactly is in the vaccine, and there hasn't been enough, guinea pigs tested with it to see if it causes any negative reactions. So I don't have an opinion. I don't have enough information. Having said that, I know a conspiracy theory when I hear it. For instance, people the COVID vaccines, there are multiples of them now, use nanotechnology. Now, if you're educated, even slightly educated, even if you have enough critical thinking to go, what is nanotechnology in vaccines? And you actually talk to immunologists, not QAnon or somebody on YouTube. You actually talk to somebody, like you want to find out from an immunologist, from a person who makes vaccines. You want to find out what they mean when they say nanotechnology. And you find out that the word nano means tiny. Now, you don't know that because you've watched a lot of science fiction, and because you listen to whatever, or you've heard all this garbage on YouTube, you think nanotechnology means tiny little robots with little antennas that go beep, 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 and they're in your blood. And you go, oh my God, artificial intelligence. And you don't know that because you're not educated, and and at the very least not educated about what nanotechnology is in vaccines. So that's what you think. But there's a difference between nanobots, which are nano little tiny robots or little tiny machines that are made out of metal or whatever it is, that are programmed, that have an electrical signal. There's a difference between that, which by the way are too big to be put into a vaccine anyway, but they're tiny compared to you, so they're called nanobots. It means tiny robots. And there's a difference between nanotechnology. Technology is any knowledge or ability. I mean, the ability to do anything is a technology. Yoga is a spiritual technology. Qigong is a spiritual technology. Creating a cell phone is electronic radio signal technology. And creating tiny little vaccines is a nanotechnology. And they put these proteins or receptors that are microscopic, and they wrap them up in very tiny lipid, which is proteins, and then they're so tiny, of course you can't see them with your eyes, but they're put in a solution which then goes into your bloodstream. They're tiny. But there's nothing about the word nano that means electronic robots. But a lot of people don't know that. So I was talking about that yesterday. I forgot where I was going with that, but anyway, critical thinking is really important. To be able to, in other words, I know that there are some vaccines out there, like the flu vaccine. Nobody should take that. I'm not going to get into it now, but I know because I researched from immunologists, from people who make vaccines, why that's bad for you. So if you want to find out what's going on with the coronavirus vaccine, I'm going to listen to immunologists and vaccine creators and find out what the science is. If you are not educated and you're not a critical thinker, you can't tell the difference between somebody who comes on here with a conspiracy theory and somebody who comes on here with the truth. And you won't be able to tell the difference between an actual conspiracy theory, which do exist, conspiracies that do exist. You won't be able to tell the difference between a real conspiracy and the nonsense ones, because you're not educated and you don't have critical thinking skills. At the very least, you don't have the critical thinking skills to go, wow, I have a really strong emotional attachment to that. Is that clouding my view? Or wow, I have a really strong emotional attachment to that. Have I done actual research outside of an echo chamber to find out the truth? This all has to do with being individuated. In order to be able to do that, you have to be comfortable being yourself. But if on an unconscious level you aren't individuated, your unconscious mind will talk you out of and convince you of all kinds of craziness. And you won't be able to know when your thinking is clear because you're not able to individuate. So that's why it's so important to follow critical thinking. And that's why it's important to have a teacher. That's why it's important to have therapists. That's why it's important to have mentors, so that you can learn how to be your own authority. But no, there is no way to have your own ideas that aren't influenced by other people. The question is, do you have the ability to go in and see how you've been influenced, not by them, but by your own fears, agendas, insecurities, which means ruthless self-honesty. That's the key to spiritual progress. It's the key to everything. It's the key to being successful in the world. It's the key to being successful in sports. It's the key to being successful in art. It's the key to being successful in everything. Being ruthless about looking at yourself and being honest about yourself. Most people have a hard time doing that. All right, James Colliday, question. Is there a ritual that we can do on the day of the solar eclipse or other preparations to make the most of the energy on that day? Well, the simple one is to if you just want a simple one, you just chant the mantra Om Namah Shivaya. Just light a candle. Light a candle and get a glass of water. Real simple one. Light a candle, get a glass of water, and face northeast, which is the direction of Ketu and is also the direction of the default when it comes to having an altar. Just face that direction and meditate and chant that mantra throughout when the eclipse is happening. Other than that, you can do, if you've gotten a mantra ritual from me, you can do the mantra ritual I've given you, or whoever your astrologer was. See what else. All right, Tara Furnace is talking about she's been individuating. Ed the Wave. All right. Let's see. All right, so he's giving United States of America. There's Ed the Wave. You can go on YouTube. There's no shortage of Vedic Astrological. By the way, as you know, Vedic is the one I recommend, not Western. Vedic Astrological. Vedic Astrological talks about the United States based on. Sorry, I just got distracted there. So yeah, you can just type into YouTube Vedic Astrology United States Astrology, and you'll find all kinds. You can do your own as well. I haven't done it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Jameson Colliday question. Ketu has had its impact as you described, relationship recently destroyed by my codependent actions over time. How can I tap into Ketu now to take responsibility for harm in a healthy way? What do you mean take responsibility? Really the only responsibility, unless you've, based on what I know about you, Jameson, what I would say is only take responsibility for how you've harmed yourself. And that just comes through doing the work. You keep doing the same things over and over again. If you have a therapist, talk to a therapist on a regular basis. If you have a mentor, talk to your mentor. If you are doing any 12-step work, just keep doing your 12-step work. Look at your specifically your fourth step, which is looking at your resentments and looking at your part in the resentments. You just keep doing it over and over again. Just take one day at a time and just do what you know you have to do. Have your things that you do to take care of yourself. It's just a daily thing. It's a slow grind. Just one step at a time every day. At the end of the day, you ask yourself, did I do anything to help myself? Did I meditate? Did I, whatever the things that you do? And if the answer is yes, then you did your part. And just do the same thing the next day. But for you, basically, Jameson, I would say, learn how to just love yourself. Have all of your feelings and just love yourself. I think that's a good thing for you. NG question, are you explaining the balance between New Age thinking and conspiracy theorists? What balance are you talking about? Some of the most insane conspiracy theorists are the New Age thinkers. I don't know what balance, maybe there's a balance I'm not aware of. To me, they're kind of the same thing. I don't know. Like not going too far into love and light and not letting conspiracy put me down even though there might be truth in it. Well, the question is, first let me just say this. Conspiracies have been going on forever. Forever. I can remember, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but I remember one of my first shamanic past life regression visions I had. was me as a Neanderthal. And I can tell you, I can point on a map where it was and where the forests were. And I was a protector. I mean, I was enormous, which was great for my ego. But I was just this enormous, I was a protector, and I protected the shaman of the tribe. And there was a political coup. There was another guy that wanted to have control of the tribe, and he ended up, and he created this political coup, and there was like a civil war in the tribe, and I ended up fighting to protect my shaman, and I ended up being killed. And I remember the last moment. I mean, my one of my knees was like snapped in half or something like that, and I had been thrown off a cliff, and I'm lying there on the side of the cliff, like broken and paralyzed, and I'm looking up at the stars as the sun is going down. And I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to go there. It's been going on for hundreds of, and Neanderthals were around for hundreds of thousands of years. And so conspiracies have been going on forever. The funny thing is that, anybody who believes in a conspiracy seems to think this is new. This is the first time this has ever happened, and I'm on the cutting edge of those who are woke. And I know what's going on, and so and then they think it's really important that I get involved in this. But the only thing that you really need to do, in my experience, is to just live from your soul. Realize you're an infinite being, and there's always going to be some kind of drama and craziness going on. It doesn't mean you don't do anything about it. It might be your dharma, might be your orlog to become a politician, or to become an activist, or to become a lawmaker, or to do something and be involved in, this. If I were a lawyer right now, or if I was involved in some aspect of the legal community, I would be looking for ways to, have some impact on this inability for the United States to follow its own constitution. I would be looking for legal remedies to punish people who I believe are acting as traitors and acting to overturn the Constitution, and to I would be actively seeking to punish those people. I'm not. This is my dharma. This is why I have to be careful when I start talking about politics, because that's not my job. My job is to help you guys find your spiritual path if you think I have something to offer you. So it takes a lot of effort for me to not talk about that stuff. I mean, I still can't prevent it. I still just now talked about it. I forgot what I was talking about here. Ketu. The other thing that Ketu does is he takes away your mind. So that's why yesterday and today, I mean, I get on this where I'm going to get to this great point, and then I forgot. What am I talking about? I forgot what I was talking about. That's Ketu. Takes away your ability to see your objective mind. So point of conspiracy is that, for me, I just don't deal with it. And what ends up happening is when I focus on me, the universe ends up putting me exactly where I belong. I mean, again, I could have, if I had waited a little longer before I left the United States, I'd be there. I'd be stuck there. But because I left when I did, and I came here to this perfect place for me, I came to for me, the best place in the world. And people speak English here, they drive cars, there are grocery stores. I live in this small, it's not tiny, but a small resort town on the beach in the jungle, on these empty beaches and warm weather and all that, and there's no COVID. So I've never had to wear a mask or anything like that. I can shake people's hand and hug them and all that kind of stuff. I never have to worry about it. And that simply came about because I'm following my soul, and my soul always leads me someplace safe and happy. It doesn't mean that there isn't, that the rest of the world isn't falling apart. It just means I'm going to be taken care of. My soul will always find where to take me. For instance, 9/11. When 9/11 happened, I happened to go backpacking in the Sierras at that exact time. And I spent 2 weeks up in the Sierras while, everything was going crazy down, And I came down to find out 9/11 had happened. And somebody rightly said, yeah, because the universe always protects you, Mike. And it's true. It protects me because I follow my soul. My soul knows exactly what it's supposed to do. Even if I don't consciously know, why do I want to go to Australia all of a sudden? My mind doesn't understand it. My soul knows what it's doing. So who gives a crap? I shouldn't say that because it does bother me a lot. But the thing is that, I was thinking about it yesterday and I was thinking about it today that, what if this is the end of democracy in the United States? I'm telling you, this is a very real thing. This is very real. I'm not going to get overhyped about it, but I'm just telling you the objective facts. When the population of a democracy no longer trusts its democratic institutions, and or when you have half of the population that is seeking, and it doesn't matter which side of this you're on, you'll agree with me, when you have half of the population seeking to disenfranchise other people's right to share their opinion and determine what they want, when majority rule no longer matters and it's, I don't like, the vote, so I'm just going to destroy it. That's the end of democracy. And that, as an American, that bothers me. And as somebody who lives in the Western world, I don't plan on living somewhere else. I want to live in a Western democracy wherever I live. That's a problem. But it's been going on forever. I mean, the United States didn't exist, 250 years ago. There was no such thing as the United States. And, before Rome, there was just a bunch of Latin, warrior tribes that were, came together and created Rome. And the Rome fell. The United States will fall at some point. Democracy, and it may fall because of a coup. They may put, Emperor Trump on the throne, and like General Flynn wants to do, he wants the current president of the United States, who, according to the Supreme Court of the United States, has said has been voted out of office. He wants that guy to declare martial law and invalidate the election and take it over and then, rewrite it, which is what they do in banana republics. That is something, and not only that, there was how many? 17? How many states were it? 17 states sued the United States because it doesn't like the outcome of the election. That's a coup. That's the beginnings of I mean, they're saying we don't like the democratic process. We want to rewrite it in our way. I mean, that's just the end of democracy. And then what's going to happen after that? Did you know that one of the favorite phrases of Hitler was the lying press? Fake news. He was voted into office. He was voted into office, and then he finagled all of the political systems to become the dictator of Germany. It happens all the time. It might happen to my country, and I just accept that. There's nothing I can do about it. So I choose to believe that my soul will take me where I need to go. If the United States turns into it falls apart, and turns into, if there's civil war or if something goes on and democracy ends, my soul will make sure I end up someplace beautiful just like where I'm at now. So who cares? Unless it's part of your orlog, just do your thing. I'm not saying be stupid and be ignorant. I'm just saying that what's most important is your soul and your soul's connection to the universe. That's the most important thing. If you have that, you have everything. Because we've just seen, the most powerful democracy in the world, and what has been the beacon of democracy, America has said, this great experiment, and they've touted themselves. They've been so proud to the whole world that, look, we are a self-determined democracy and we've held this together. That might be gone. It might be too late. I honestly have my doubts that that democracy will be able to recover from this, even if Biden is put into office, and even if there's already enough dissension going on that who knows what'll happen. I don't know that they'll ever recover. This could be the end. This could be the fall of Rome in our in our lifetime. Let's see what else. Dakota Spruill, what if their parents are hippies? What if they are hippies? There are good hippies and bad hippies. There are abusive hippies and loving hippies. A lot of drug addict hippies out there. Let's see what happened here. NG question, so everything is based on our relationship to our caregivers? Everything in your consciousness is based on your first 3 years of life. Your entire programming. You are programmed like a robot. The one thing you didn't have any control over, the one thing you don't have any responsibility over, and even that I have to amend that, is the first 3 years of your life. Somebody says, you want to be a parent? You only got 3 years to get it right. Really, you've got a couple of months. If you abandon your child, at a month or 2 months of age, if something happens and you get locked out of your house and your child spends a week, your infant spends 2 or 3 days alone, that could be enough to turn them into a narcissist or a borderline. So everything that happens absolutely determines everything. The rest of your life is about trying to go in and find what worked and find what didn't. And this is what meditation and spirituality really is all about, to get you connected to your soul. Let's see what else. Marianne McCormick, NG dropped down $5, thank you. Marianne McCormick says, question, how do I undo this parent worshipping bind? I'm teaching you how to do it. You can start with critical thinking. Critical thinking says that everybody, including me, has an emotional agenda to everything. So you constantly monitor your emotional attachments and reactions to everything. And so somebody comes and says, we just found out that, I don't know, or somebody comes to you with a belief, whatever it is, I'm trying to find something that's not, anyway, it doesn't matter what the belief is. Jesus died for your sins. What is your emotional reaction to that? Whoa, I love that. Somebody saved me. Oh, I don't have to do anything now. Well, I have to look at that. You go, wow, does that mean it's the truth? I believe in the scripture. I believe that the God said it and that's it, and it's written in the Bible, it's true. Yeah, but what about all this science? I don't care about the science. I just know that I want to be saved. I want Jesus to save my soul. I like the idea of there's a one God and I'm chosen and I'm perfect and I'm saved, and I don't want you to screw with that. I'm going to believe that. Well, I have a strong attachment to that belief. I did that when I looked at 9/11. I was a 9/11 truther until I stopped and I went, wait, I haven't even bothered to try and debunk 9/11 trutherism. If you don't know what that is, it's the belief that 9/11 was a hoax perpetrated by the deep state in order to create a premise to go into Iraq and steal their oil. That's 9/11 truthers. So I just didn't even question it, because I absolutely knew for a fact that Bush and Cheney manufactured all kinds of false intel to be able to go into Iraq, until I went, wait a minute, that's not the same as them creating 9/11. Those are two different things. They might be the same, but they might not be. So I had to go, I have a lot of emotional attachment to that idea. So now, in order to make sure that I am seeing things from critical thinking, I'm going to investigate, I'm going to seek out, are there any experts out there who can debunk this idea? And sure enough, there were. And every single thing that came up in whatever that, what was that, that film, that documentary about, that everybody was watching, that seemed so convincing, that had so many experts and so much evidence proving that 9/11 was a hoax. I actually found experts who were very, very easily able to explain scientifically and all their different things why those things aren't true, and the missing facts that weren't brought about. They weren't telling all the facts. They were just it was just an echo chamber that had very good evidence saying this thing, but they didn't have anything opposing it. So I found the opposing side and I went, oh, it's very easily debunked. And then I did Occam's razor and I said, what makes more sense? And then I thought about how much, like quadrillions of dollars and how many tens of thousands of people it would take to create that hoax. And then I went, that doesn't sound very likely. What sounds more likely is exactly what we know happened, is that Osama bin Laden and a few of his people that he had decided to attack the United States in order to provoke them to go to war with all of Islam, in the hopes that then that would cause a world war, which would cause the end of the United States. And he actually did a pretty good job. We might be looking at that right now. So Occam's razor told me that even though I want to believe that, I'm not a 9/11 truther anymore. Doesn't mean that I don't believe that there were people that wouldn't have done it, and it doesn't mean that there wasn't a conspiracy after the fact to to do exactly that. So this is critical thinking. It doesn't have to be all blanket one thing, but in order to get to that place, you have to be able to be willing to look at your emotional attachments to things. And you could be emotionally attached to something and be accurate, but you have to be willing to be wrong. You have to be willing to go through that. And if you're not willing to be wrong, then you're absolutely going to be wrong at some point. And the danger is that that's when you can be manipulated. The very people who you think will liberate you are the ones that are stoking your fear. Again, Nazism is the perfect example. The Nazis, or after World War I, Germany was a wreck. And they were, spit upon by the rest of the world, and they didn't have any army, and they didn't have any money, and they were in a really bad state. And then there was this, started these conspiracy theories about how Jews are doing it to them, and that took hold, and that was enough. And of course, the lying press, fake news, and the Jews are doing it in fake press. Sound familiar? I mean, there are people like that right now that talk exactly like that in the United States. You can't trust the media, fake news, and they'll throw out whatever, That's how it starts. Lack of critical thinking. And it starts with people not being aware that what was really going on is that the German people, and I could go into 2,000 years of post-Roman history to back it up, but the German people felt really insecure and they felt really disenfranchised, and they wanted to find out who to blame so that they could fix it. And if they weren't able to acknowledge their own fear and insecurity and pain and work through that from a conscious perspective, if they're not able to do that, then you end up creating the perfect scenario for a Hitler to come along, who then stokes everybody's fears, says he's going to liberate them while simultaneously taking away their freedoms. Right? That's exactly how it starts. A lack of critical thinking. Starting with the inability to look at your own emotional attachments. And it takes strength. You have to have strength. You have to have, the reason why, I'm able to in my mind, let the United States fall into some kind of, which I think, if it continues, it'll turn into some kind of dictatorship or something like that. The reason why I'm able to allow that is because I'm not emotionally attached to the United States. I'm emotionally attached to my connection to the universe. So if that means I never go back there, I'm more than happy to never go back there. But if you can't stand the thought of never leaving the United States, and that the United States is everything, the United States is God, like people in the United States think the Constitution is like, the word of God. Like, you can't change the Constitution. You're like, yeah, you can. We do it all the time. We ended slavery that way. We ended, we created only 2 terms for, president. You can add and take away from the Constitution whenever you want. But, you can't change the Constitution isn't God. The United States isn't God. The United States form of democracy is not God. When you realize that, then, you can move and change with it. As long as you do it, we come together and we do it, through, democratic means, then it's still the Constitution. All right, what else? Question, you said I killed God. Who is God in your eyes? The question, you just said I killed God. I don't remember the context of that. What do you mean, who is God in my eyes? Have you been on my channel? Gert, do you spend any time watching the videos on my channel? I mean, how many gods do I have to talk about? Let's see, what else? Marianne McCormick question, how do I undo this parent worshipping by staying conscious? I think I answered that. Whether it's flat or triangle, whether it's a cylinder, it doesn't really matter, we're on it. Oh, let me please address that. It absolutely matters. New Perspective DEC. What I hear in that, I'm going to tell you what I hear in that. What I hear in that is codependence. You are desperately in need of being accepted by everybody. You even use the word triangle. You triangulate. So this is your insecurity. You're unwilling to have people like me or anybody else. You're unwilling to have people disapprove of you or dislike you. You want to be accepted by everybody. And let me tell you why it's important. This technology, this is a real thing. This has nothing to do with opinion. If you don't know how to create technology, phones, things like that, they won't work. If you don't understand how signals and satellites and things like that converge to create your ability to have internet and phone, and if you don't know that there is a science, where things are true and things are false, there are things that are true and are false. If you don't understand that, then your actual way of living becomes impinged upon. Then it becomes this religious belief. The flat earth theory is a religious belief, whether somebody has a belief in God or not, and most of them are religious, but even the ones that aren't, there's a religious belief about it. I've even had people say, when I tell them, they talk about this and that, and I'll say, yeah, but what is the science behind that? And they'll say, well, and at some point they'll say something to the effect of, hey, look, I have the right to believe whatever I want. Don't try and take away my right to believe in the flat earth. And my response to them is, what you believe is irrelevant. What is relevant is what is true and what is not true. Because things like that, science, when somebody can come in and deny absolute truths that have to do with science, then a tyrant or a religious leader can come in and take over your life and your freedoms. That's why it's so fucking important that people who are wrapped up in believing the earth is flat based on their childish narcissism, which is what it's all about. The foundation of the flat earth belief system is that they are lying to us, whoever they are. I'm not going to believe them. So what it's about is, I don't want you to tell me what to believe. So I'm going to believe what I want. And they can't tell the difference between their emotional attachment to finding some need to have some kind of temper tantrum which proves that they're an individual, and whether or not this is an actual scientific truth. The ability to know scientific truth is absolutely relevant to freedom. When somebody can come in, let's say a flat earther becomes president of the United States, and he starts enacting legislation to forbid teaching of science. And it's already halfway there, because we've now opened it up that we can have that it's choice now. It's a right of choice to be, evolution versus creationism, as though it's, I like to wear blue or I like to listen to blues. Those are choices. Whether or not science and evolution and the earth is round, those aren't things that are up to your opinion. And your narcissistic need, if I read you correctly, which I might, forgive me if I don't, but your narcissistic need to be loved by everybody is actually eroding my freedom to have absolute truth about science taught in schools, which is part of critical thinking. Part of critical thinking is going into the laboratory and doing experiments and finding out certain things. And just because somebody has an emotional attachment to either believe that God created the earth and that the earth is flat because that's what the Bible says, or the other person who's not religious and has an emotional need to rebel against their parents, which they're projecting onto the school system and science and NASA, which is, again, I've said to you before, those of you who have conspiracy theories, if you can replace whoever you think is controlling you with your parents, you'll be on the right track. People who say, I'm not going to believe NASA. Why? Because they're educated scientists who are telling you authoritatively that this is this and gravity exists, and you can't stand somebody telling you something with authority, especially when you don't know anything about it. That makes you feel powerless. And they do know more than you, and that makes you feel like they have authority over you. They don't. They just happen to know more about that subject than you do. Doesn't give them any more authority, but they have the authority to say, yeah, we've proven it. We sent people to the moon. How do we know that? Well, because these people have all worked on it. Those people actually went up in space, and we have all this film. Oh, yeah, but that can be faked. It's absolutely relevant to everybody's freedom. I know you think you're being New Perspectives DAC. I know you think you're being peaceful. You're finding the connection and making everybody love each other. But you're actually based on your selfish need. This is your selfish, narcissistic need to be seen as a peacemaker and to be seen as a spiritual person. Your unwillingness to stand up for people's freedom, to say no. In this case, actually, there is a 100% critical thinking, true or false thing. Gravity either exists or it doesn't. The earth is either round or it's not. And that is a fact that has a bearing on everybody's life, including your ability to have internet and phone, driving cars, whatever else. Okay, so there's an example of where it's important to know what the truth is. And if you're a flat earther, and you really want to know the truth, then you have to be willing to look at your emotional attachments to that. And if you can determine, like I have, maybe you can't do that yet, but if you can determine that what's really going on is that the whole idea that gives power to the flat earth is the feeling that you're rebelling against the elite who are trying to snow you. And you're not even stopping to go, wait a minute, even though they know more than I do and they do have a lot of power, are they right? And why is this important? Why is it important to know what science says and what it doesn't? Not your narcissistic need to have a temper tantrum. Let's see what else. People have to realize reptilians. Okay, now this explains everything. New Perspective DEC. People have to realize. Why do people have to realize? I mean, I say that kind of stuff, but now you're shoving something down my throat. I don't know that I have to realize anything. If you can prove to me that it's true, then maybe I do have to realize it. But let's see. People have to realize what reptilians are. Oh, so now you're going to give us a fact. Now you're going to introduce us to a fact. They come from Orion. How do you know that? From the constellation Draco. Well, that's called Draco from us. That doesn't mean that dragons live there. It looks like a dragon from our perspective, so we call it Draco. But if you fly there, it's not going to look like Draco. It's going to look like something else. It's all about perspective. And they also eat babies. How do you know that? You're a nutcase. Now I know you're a nutcase. I'm sorry, this is just not, I can't even. But here you get to see critical thinking. You get to see when somebody is coming from an emotional agenda. When somebody comes from an emotional agenda, they give black and white generalized facts They say things like people have to realize, and then they give statements, generalized statements as facts with nothing to back it up. And that's exactly what happens here. People have to realize what reptilians are. They come from this place, and they also eat babies in the lower astral round. Look into Peggy. She is a EVP. There's nothing to back up anything you've said. That's the sure sign somebody has an emotional agenda, which means that they're more interested in confirming their emotional bias than they are in actually knowing the truth. So let's keep going. RT question. I'm going through a dark night of the soul and I'm working my way with an energy healer. I'm having high anxiety, shakiness, and panic attacks every day. How do I work with my inner child in this trauma? I would go see a psychologist. That's their job. That's what they train to do. I don't know this energy healer. My experience, most energy healers are not psychologists. They're not trained psychologists. Energy healers are great when you have a slight, like if like recently I started doing my Taoist energy practice, which is really intense, and I haven't done it really intensely for years. And so, it's like going to the gym when you haven't been working out, and you go to the gym and you go and lift a bunch of weights, and then you're just sore as hell. Well, all of my nerves and my meridians in my head were just like, and I thought, oh my God, I broke myself. But all that happened was that it had been so long, and my meridians were already open. So much energy came in, my body had to deal with the energy. Now, having an energy healer is good for that. You've got a slight this is a little, you go to an acupuncturist, you've got a major, deeply held psychological trauma that you're working through. An energy healer should be the last guy you go to. Still go to the energy healer, but you should go to the psychologist first, get some counseling, and then, go and see the energy healer after you've talked to the psychologist. So what you're telling me in that question, what I hear is that I'm having major clashes on a deep unconscious level, and it's so overwhelming, it's beyond my conscious ability to comprehend what's going on, and I'm really having a hard time. So you need to have somebody who's going to be able to mirror back at you and help you with that. An energy healer is not going to be able to do that. When people go after energy healers, they want somebody to fix them. The energy healer can't fix the major psychological issues, unless there are some energy healers that are also, shamans in the old day used to be psychologists. You'd go to the shaman, he'd do an energy healing on you, and then he'd talk to you about, your fears and your anxieties. I mean, you hear, you watch Kung Fu, right? I mean, Kwai Chang Caine goes in and, it's under the guise of Shaolin, Buddhism, but he's basically giving him psychological advice. For instance, like in, the old Kung Fu, I'm talking about the 70s TV series, and some guy was being attacked by demons. And there was a demon that would appear to him in the middle of the night, and then, the Buddhist says, that all of the demons come from within, and if we can make peace with our demons, the external demons will disappear. The only difference between that and a psychologist is that he's couching it in a Buddhist framework. So you need to go to somebody that can help you with that. Trying to have an energy healer make your feelings go away is denial, and denial is self-violence. You think, I'm going to this guy, he's going to give me a pill, or he's going to touch me, and he's going to chant, and he's going to make it go away. But what you're really doing is you are yelling at yourself to stop having these feelings or I'll kill you. That's what denial is. So I got nothing against energy healers, but use them for what they're there for. They're not there to help you with major psychological issues. So you ask, how do I work with my inner child in this trauma? Go talk to a psychologist. Let's see. J. Cloudy developed. Question. How do I overcome the anger and pain of not having a father or any close male figure in my life? Same thing. Who told you you had to overcome your anger? That's self-abuse. you shouldn't overcome your anger. You should be angry. What's underneath the anger is horrific sadness. You should mourn. If you first have to get angry at whomever, at God or the world or your mother or your dad who left you or died or whatever the hell happened that made you not have a dad, get angry about it. It's not rational. I know it's not rational. Again, this is what a parent does. Little kid comes with an irrational anger, that their anger is real. It might not be rooted in rational thinking, but the dad says, I know that would make me so angry. I'm so sorry you're so mad. You want to go punch a pillow? And then after he punches the pillow, then the kid breaks down and he cries. And he says, they hurt my feelings. He says, I know, I'm so sorry they hurt you. Now, how sad for you. I'm sorry that happened. Be angry, be sad. It's going to be painful. It's going to be really painful. It might be the most pain you've ever experienced in your life. It might feel like it's killing you. But give yourself the right to be angry. Don't take it out on anybody else. It's nobody's fault. Sometimes it's nobody's fault. You just didn't get what you needed. You didn't get what you wanted. You didn't get what you deserved. And then mourn about it. Now you get to be your own father. You get to father yourself. And then you get to then learn at some point, you'll have the gratitude. If you do that work, you'll have the gratitude to go, you know what? It's really sad I didn't have a dad. If I could go back and have a dad, I would have. But, I'm really grateful now for the experience because I really learned how to parent myself, and I'm an individuator. And then you'll become a counselor and you'll counsel other guys who didn't have a dad or whose dad abused them, or, you'll be able to create that healing. And every time you create that healing, you'll heal yourself. How's that? Who said anything about overcoming your anger? That sounds, overcoming your anger sounds like you're weak because you're angry. You're not weak. You're just human. It's okay. Gert Van Zyl, question, drink my pain away. All right. So you're the alcoholic. So Gert Van Zyl, you're asking me, is it okay for you? What do you want me to say? You drink your pain away. You let your nearest feel the pain and hide it to the world by being a happy person to the world. That's a horrible way to live. I'm going to write down exactly what you're going to do. If you don't, Gert, I'm not angry with you. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. If you do not do what I'm going to tell you to do, I will have no sympathy for you. Because I'm going to give you a free solution to your problem. But it means you have to go take action on it. It's available to you. It's free. If you don't do it and you come on here and complain about it, I'm going to block you. For any other reason, because I won't be helping you, because this is the answer. Very rarely will I give people the answer. You ready? I have the answer which will fix your problem. It's called Alcoholics Anonymous. You can go online right now and find Zoom meetings live. You can find one somewhere. They're all over the world, going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I want you to go onto a Zoom meeting for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I want you to raise your virtual hand and say, I'm brand new. I need a sponsor to walk me through the 12 steps. And then you follow their direction. If you're not willing to do that, I have no sympathy for you. I wish you all the best. Let's see what else. T. Dan, how do you interpret Ketu in the 8th house? Well, without knowing anything else, Ketu in the 8th house means radical transformation. The 8th house is unpredictable transformation. It means transformation from life to death back to life. It's the house of death. It is the literal house of death, meaning spiritual as well as physical. So Ketu in the 8th house means shamanic transformation. The way a shaman is traditionally created is he has a near-death experience where he has a vision where he's chopped to pieces by the ancestors and then put into a vat and then pulled out whole again. It's a horrific experience. So, complete destruction of your ego. And there you go. So, again, not knowing anything else, that's what you can expect out of Ketu in the 8th house. All right, Rune X. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Rune X, you haven't been abusive. I think that you're not very rational, but you haven't been abusive yet. NG, I'm not an anarchist, just one time I wanted to be one. RCP Ashtray. RHCP Ashtray. Again, I don't know why you keep giving yourself that name. Question: when will be the exact point of the solar eclipse in K2 occur in Australia, and would you advise it to be safe? I don't know the answer to that question. You can look that up online. It's going to be the same time here as anywhere else. You can just simply Google that and you can figure that out. I haven't done it yet. That's what I do. When I get ready to create the time to do my exact ritual, I'll go and find out what is the exact time that it's going to be happening and how does that translate to my time zone. And would you advise it to be safe outdoors during the eclipse? I don't have an opinion on that. The people, the Shiva worshippers will say, no, go out and be out in it. Get that K2 energy on you. Obviously, if you're going to look at it, wear the appropriate eye protection. But the Vishnu worshippers will say, no, don't let that energy touch you. Stay indoors throughout the whole thing. So I don't really care what you do. Either one, you're doing the same thing. You're taking the time to focus inward to become aware of your issues. And I can remember a lunar eclipse once. And I knew what the time was and I could see it and it was going to be where I was. And I went outside and looked at it and I swear I could feel as soon as the moon, as soon as the shadow of the earth, hit the moon, I could feel my mind just start going crazy. So it's really good because, if now that I know it's coming, I'm still feeling all crazy and loopy inside, but because I know it's coming, yesterday I was like trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. I didn't know what was going on with me. Now I know. Now that I know, I can handle it. So just knowing that it's going to come will be helpful, but yeah. Do whatever. It doesn't really matter what you do. Just do something. If you want to, I don't care if you sleep through it or not, but you can do whatever ritual you want. It's up to you whether you want to be outdoors or not. Okay. Question: is it a conspiracy theory that William Shakespeare is the first man to receive the COVID vaccine? No, that's actual truth. There's a guy named William Shakespeare who was one of the first people to receive the COVID vaccine. That is not a conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory means it's a theory about people who are conspiring. That more than one people are getting together to create a false narrative in order to take advantage of people. So that is a fact. A statement saying William Shakespeare is the first man to receive the COVID vaccine is not a conspiracy theory. Even if it were false, it wouldn't be a conspiracy theory. It might be a rumor or an urban myth, or it might be a fact. But a conspiracy theory is the theory that people are conspiring to do this or to do that to you. Kian Lajevardi question: were there not wars fought and people killed in those wars? Is that a question? That's not an honest question. What are you asking me? You want to say that the government had nothing to do with this evil act of cowardly actions. You're not asking me an honest question. Try again. You're putting a statement in the form of a question, and that doesn't count. An honest question is, I don't know the answer. Mahadeva, do you know this? That's an honest question. Yours is not honest. Rune Guy says, it's one thing to ignore information. It's nothing to claim everything is a conspiracy theory. So what is this crap? Why don't you say what you want to say? Now, I thought you were being cute. Now you're just being a passive-aggressive dickhead. So what you're saying now is that you like conspiracy theories and you don't like me putting holes in them. It means you have an emotional attachment. I know enough about you to know now. I see runes on there. So you're probably aligned with folkish neo-heathenism, which is just about the same as saying born-again Christian, far-right, Republican. So you're into conspiracy theories. You're stating that you believe that the election was taken from you. You believe that Hillary Clinton eats babies. Maybe not all of that is true, but that's what I glean from you. You're not asking me an honest question. I can see you've been on my channel long enough, so you don't have the respect to come onto my channel and follow the rules. If you want to hold on to stuff that I disagree with, you're right to believe whatever the hell you want. You want to ask me an honest question, go ahead. You want to be a passive-aggressive dickhead, you're gonna get this from me. So if you have any respect for me and my channel, try again. There's a way to communicate with me your thoughts and your feelings that won't elicit this reaction. Let's see if you can figure out how to do it. The KETU'S rule question. You talk a lot about how many old the Norse myths are. What, does that make sense? How many old the Norse myths are metaphors for energy practices? How many of the old Norse myths? So the of is missing. What does it mean that Odin's midsection was pierced before he became enlightened? It seems important. Odin's side was a good question. I don't know that I have the exact answer because I would have to really go over it again with a fine-tooth comb to find out all the mythology. But Odin was pierced by a spear. So Odin is the god of Kundalini awakening. And Odin's weapon is the spear called Gungnir, which means swayer. So the interesting thing about the spear, first off, the spear, people think that way back when that people in Middle Ages and before, they fought with sword and shield. But the truth is that a sword and shield was expensive. The average, polytheist didn't have the money or the resources for that. If they did, they were really rich because not everybody had metal. They're lucky if they had a metal knife, not to mention a shield, even a wooden shield. The average person had a spear, and actually the spear is the most effective and lethal weapon on the battlefield. So this is why Odin is associated with warfare. And this is why he's given the spear, for one reason. The spear was, before the battle, the Germanic tribespeople, they'd find the best spear thrower, William Shakespeare. They'd find the best spear thrower, and he would throw a spear over the heads of the opposing army, and the spear, whoever was underneath the spear was then the spoils that would go to Odin. So they were giving respect to Odin and to their opponents by saying, you're going to go to Valhalla today, which is a good thing. They're saying we're going to kick your ass, but at the same time you're going to go to Valhalla and you're going to be with Odin. But the spear represents the spinal column. And the spinal column, when Kundalini awakens up the spinal column, it makes you go like this. It makes you sway. I mean, I could do it right now if I wanted to. If I just closed my eyes and just relaxed, you'd start me seeing go like this because I do a lot of energy work. So Gungnir means the swayer. When the spear represents the spear breaking through the knot, the Kundalini breaking through the knot at the base of the skull to reach the crown chakra. And so when, I don't know that Odin hung upside down. We always see him hanging upside down. I don't know that he did. Somebody can show me in the myths that he hung upside down. I'm not sure that I remember reading that. But anyway, hanging on the tree of life is the spinal column. He died to himself, meaning he died to his small identity, to his big identity, which is the Kundalini. And so the other thing is that when whole armies would be lined up with their spears, if they wanted to frighten the other army, they would all shake their spears, and the sound of the sharp end of the metal end of the spear, slicing through the air would make this sound of shoo, 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 shoo. If you got 100 or 500 or 1,000 people going shoo, 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 it makes this shoo, 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 shoo. this crazy sound that you can hear from a long way away. But he represents achieving awareness of the Kundalini, self-awareness. So a spear piercing him would mean awareness, piercing him. Exactly where and what I'd have to look and see, what organ was being pierced, and et cetera, but that's what I mean. All right, so Rune guy here, I've said it before, if you can't be respectful on my channel, I'm going to block you. I've seen you before. You already know what the rules are. I've obviously stimulated your emotional agendas. And I am not going to co-sign it. So let's all say goodbye to this guy. Because not only is he not speaking the truth, he's speaking half-truths and false truths and cloaking them under this idea of a conspiracy theory. And he doesn't have the guts to be honest and look me in the face with respect and communicate in the ways that I have respectfully asked him to do. So I also think I'm not going to co-sign any messages or information that promotes more fear and more ignorance. And that's what you're doing. So let's all say goodbye to him. He does not get to comment any more on the channel. You're more than welcome to come and watch the channel, but in terms of commenting, bye-bye. Rune X, you're almost there. You haven't got there yet. Blaming your parents is nonsensical. I'm sorry you don't like that. If you got a problem with every single psychologist and psychiatrist in the world, then you're in the minority. You don't like it. You think it's nonsensical, but that's okay with me. Medical psychiatry has poisoned the minds of the bodies of many. I mean, that again, you can tell when somebody has an emotional agenda, meaning that they have a need to believe what they believe more than they need to believe the truth, usually based out of fear or insecurity. And what they do in order to promote their beliefs is they make statements of blanket fact, or they make blanket statements without anything to back it up. This is exactly what you're doing. So again, you're this close. Keep it up. Ed the Wave. Nanotech is cool. Where'd we go? Let's see what happened here. Nanotech is cool. I wish I could understand it better. I was a health science major in college. Anatomy and physiology will revolutionize our lives. Okay. Rune X, won't be checking on this channel again. Bye. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Kian Longevity, question. You keep saying conspiracy theories because of my own fears. Well, I haven't talked to you personally. Did I? Maybe I did. I don't think I did. Did I talk to you personally? I don't even know who you are. So how can I be talking to you personally? You keep saying conspiracy theories because of my own fears. Why is there so much corruption? What do you mean, why is there so much corruption? Is that really that difficult to figure out? Because people are selfish. Do I need to elaborate on that? This is the whole idea of becoming conscious. Becoming conscious, becoming aware that, actually, trusting the universe and following my own soul gives me everything, and being greedy and trying to steal and trying to take from others doesn't serve me. It actually separates me from my soul and my connection to infinity. That's, then people like that aren't corrupt because it doesn't serve them. People who are corrupt are people who don't realize that, and so they operate from their childish fears, just like the child on the playground who steals somebody's ball or their cookie or whatever else. You really don't understand why people are corrupt? What you don't understand, if you believe in these unsubstantiated conspiracy theories, because there are conspiracies that are real. Like I mentioned earlier, there was a conspiracy, but it's right out in plain sight. Everybody can see it. Bush and Cheney created a conspiracy to use false or partial truth information of intelligence about the Middle East, to use that as a pretext to go to war for the express purpose of stealing their oil, and on Cheney's side of putting lots of money in his pocket by sending out his company to go and all the stuff that he did. That is a conspiracy, and it's right there in front of you. You don't have to have some thing about these people and the system, and you can see it right in front of you. And they were elected leaders. They're not part of some hidden cabal somewhere. They were people that we elected and put into office. We could vote them out of office and put somebody else there who would have different. This is what you guys don't get. This is a child. A child thinks everybody has power. Everybody who's a politician is part of the elite cabal. This is childish, infantile, narcissistic fear based on a lack of education. Go educate yourself on it. It's not that fucking hard to do. Why is there so much corruption? Because human beings are selfish and frightened. The very people who introduce unsubstantiated conspiracy theories are oftentimes the very people who are manipulating you so that they can take your freedoms away. I already explained one right out in front of you. Hitler was voted into office, and because the German people were already feeling insecure and disenfranchised, they wanted a victim, they wanted a scapegoat, and he provided that for them. He was just following what was already there. The racism, somehow these Jews are doing it to them, and the Jews did this and the Jews did that. They created this false conspiracy, and people bought into it. And then he came into power, and then the free press that was actually speaking against him and stating facts against him, he silenced them by calling them the lying press, which is exactly what Donald Trump has been doing. And then he got rid of that. Then he got rid of the intelligentsia. He got rid of the educated people, the scientists, the philosophers, the historians. This is how it happens. The people who are running around with these unsubstantiated conspiracy theories are actually feeding into the very people who are going to become your tyrants and take your freedoms away. Just because you have an emotional attachment to, oh yeah, I don't like those Arabs, or I don't like those other people, or I don't like those Democrats, or I don't like this, and because people keep fomenting your fear, that doesn't make it true. Just because emotionally you're attached to it doesn't make it true. What do you mean? Why you really don't know? I keep saying conspiracy theories because of my own fears. That's a different question than why is there so much corruption. The fact that you have fears and the fact that there are corruptions are two different things. It's not that corruption doesn't exist. It's, are your fears rational? Or are your fears coming from your emotional biases based on your first 3 years of your life? You've been programmed. You've been programmed by your parents, by your society, and it's happened on a deeply unconscious level. You don't know that. None of us do. The whole point of all of it is to become conscious of what is unconscious. And those people who are not conscious of what is unconscious are the ones who will be manipulated, and the people who manipulate you will use your own fears against you, and they'll make it sound like you're in the minority. For instance, go on to anybody who watches Fox News religiously. They'll talk about the mainstream media, when Fox News is the most watched cable channel in the United States. So by definition, the mainstream media is Fox News. But when somebody says the mainstream media, the emotional reaction is, yeah, I don't listen to what everybody else listens to. I listen to the minority because we know the truth. And when in fact you're in the majority, you're part of the club. You have no awareness of what any of these words mean. They're all designed to stimulate you into having an emotional reaction. I use the word conspiracy theory. That stimulates you because that's negative, because you like conspiracy theories. And I never said that conspiracies don't exist. You just have to know which ones are accurate and which ones aren't. So I already know, based on that, I already know so much about you. And I want to help you. And if you're willing to drop your understandable ego reaction to me challenging you, if you're able to drop that long enough and ask yourself, all right, do I have an emotional reaction? Do I have an emotional attachment to this? Somebody comes along and says, you know, those Democrats, do you have an emotional reaction to the word Democrats? That's enough right there to stop and go, I have an emotional reaction to that. What am I actually responding to? You have an emotional reaction when somebody says the government, when somebody says the deep state, when somebody says the system, when somebody says the media. Whenever somebody lumps everything into a one thing, do you immediately have an emotional reaction to that? You know, I was talking about that earlier. There is no the media. There's a bunch of independent news organizations, and they all have different opinions. And if there's a bunch of them that have the same opinion, then you're right to go, now are these people all spouting the same thing? Or is it that the majority of these journalists are coming to the same conclusion, which means that's probably the truth? Or do we have state-controlled media? I mean, you have to ask yourself all these questions. But if you can't ask those questions honestly, you'll never come to the truth. And I already know, Kian, if I wanted to, I could put on a mask and start another channel, and I could say all the things you want to hear, and you'd be right with me, and I could completely manipulate you. I already know how to manipulate you. Why is there so much corruption we just have to deal with? Is the IRS a figment of my imagination? What are you saying? Are you saying, of course the IRS is not a figment of your imagination, but you live in the United States, and the United States has taxes, and there has to be a branch of the government to collect your taxes. Do I think the IRS is a great thing? No. But you don't like it, go hire a lawyer. If you don't like it, find out ways to, there's all kinds of ways, all kinds of loopholes to get around the IRS if you put the effort into it. You're just this victim of the IRS. I'm sorry that you have to go work for a living and pay taxes. How else are you going to pave the streets? How else are you going to pay for emergency services? How else are you going to pay for cops? How else are you going to pay for the army? How else are you going to pay for the things that keep the infrastructure of your world together? I don't like it. Listen, every opportunity I get to not pay taxes, I don't pay taxes. If I could push a button and not pay taxes, I wouldn't pay them. But I understand that infrastructure. Are you so narcissistic and childish you don't understand that without taxes, the infrastructure would fall apart? Do you not understand that? What about education? What about schools? There wouldn't be any schools. What do you think pays for all of that? Do you not get that? All you got to do is go take a course in economics and figure out what the point of taxes are. You've just lumped the IRS into all conspiracy theories and all corruption. This is what I'm talking about. Are there bad IRS laws? I'm sure there are. I don't care. I just do my job, I pay my taxes, and where I don't have to pay taxes, if I can get away with it, I don't. You're going to tell me that it's... yes, I am telling you that is coming from your childish, narcissistic fears based on your parents that you're projecting onto the IRS, to so much corruption. Ed the Wave question. I was watching some of your videos on modern shamanism. How do we best integrate shamanic practices despite being modern, materialist, and skeptical people in our modern environments? Have you done any of the practices? I mean, the answer to your question is to just do the practices. I mean, I've got no shortage of rituals, of qigong, of energy work. I have books. If you want to go buy a book, I can show you in the books what to do. What that tells me, Ed the Wave, is that you haven't read my books and you haven't done the practices. Do the practices. You want to learn, you can go on to the thunderwizard.com site and sign up at the $25 level, and I'll teach you exactly how to do modern shamanism. So the short answer is just go do it. James and Colliday question, responsibility for harm caused to myself. How can I feel the anger, disappointment, and sadness I've been forced to face getting into a relationship too soon and not wallow in victimhood or self-hatred? So, James and Colliday, you're very confused. about your feelings and about your responsibility to yourself. So those are deep questions. Those are the kinds of questions that you take to a therapist. Those are the kinds of questions you take into the 12 steps. This isn't something I can fix in 1 second. You're too hard on yourself. Just stop beating yourself up. Just stop. Just start loving yourself. And that means having all of your feelings. All of this, talk about how can I feel the anger, disappointment, and sadness I've been forced to face getting into a relationship too soon and not well. There's just so much thinking going on there. You just have some feelings. My favorite affirmation is from the EFT guys. Even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. Just do that all day, every day. While you're talking to your sponsor, while you're working your steps, while you're talking to your psychologist, while you're doing your meditation and your energy work. Because these feelings aren't going to go away. And Jameson, the more work you do, these feelings are going to keep coming up. They're going to be there for a while. So just learn how to be uncomfortable. Stop trying to fix it by overthinking it. Having said that, I understand why you do it. Okay, Gert, I've already told you what to do. Tone Gainer, question. When we take help support from the universe gods to get closer to our goals, is there a point where it can be disrespectful to take credit for our achievements? No. Our ancestors didn't do that. They sought glory. So go seek as much glory for yourself while understanding that you got it from the universe and from the gods. I don't have a problem with you patting yourself on the back. Okay. Zeitgeist. I watched Zeitgeist. The first half of the movie is great. The second half is all conspiracy theory nonsense. Loose Change I haven't watched. Again, I don't have like I said, if you have critical thinking, you can know what to look for and what not. Zeitgeist, the movie. I love the first half. The second half is all unsubstantiated nonsense. That's critical thinking. If I had an emotional agenda, I hate that movie. That's a stupid movie. Oh, there's some really good stuff about it. I haven't seen Loose Change, so I can't really talk about it. But let's see what else. Ed the Wave says, it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Yep. Donna Lilly, U.S. will be fine, just no socialism. What the fuck are you talking about, Donna? You just gave me such a great compliment, and now you've just pissed me off so much. What do you think Social Security is? It's socialism. What do you think taxpayer paid for police and fire department? What do you think public school system is? It's socialism. This is what I mean. These words, the word democratic socialism doesn't mean becoming a communist. And if you're that uneducated that you don't know that, I feel sorry for you. I'm not saying to be a democratic socialist or not, but you're filled with socialism and that benefits you. So you've just, I'm sorry, you had my ego going because you said something really wonderful and now showed me that you don't know what that means. I honestly don't think, Donna, you understand what the word means, because I think if you did, you wouldn't have written it. You would go, oh no, there's a space for that. Communism is totally different. Communism is everything state run, and you have nothing. You have no life. You're told where to go to work. You're told what to do. They control everything. That's communism, where you don't exist and the state is the only thing. But democratic socialism means that as a body, people come together and they finance programs that give things to people, that protect society, so that you don't have people end up, why end up people in old folks' homes or end up homeless? There's some kind of backdrop for people and the state helps people. Now, you can then debate back and forth all the specifics of that, and I think people should. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with socialism unless you're uneducated and you're full of fear and you listen to all of the all the propaganda that's thrown at you, because you have people who, I'll tell you what's going on. What started this whole split, the split that's in the United States now, which has always been there to some degree. There's always been the people who are into having their money, which are people who talk about freedom and freedom from taxes. Those are mostly the rich people, and they want to hold on to their stuff. And they want to have freedom to make a lot of money through business, capitalism. They want to be able to be capitalists. They want the freedom to be capitalists. And then there's the other people, the working class. And the working class want unions, and they want socialist agendas that will hold them up, because they don't have a lot of money. They work really hard and they're poor, and they want the state to hold them up. And then you have the middle. The idea is the two come together and you find the middle ground. But what you had happen in the 80s is you had the right, which is the people who have all the money and don't want to pay taxes and don't want to make sure that your air is clean and that your water is clean, and that they don't want to spend money to protect other people as they're making millions and billions of dollars. So they've put all of their time and money into owning the government, which is what now is going on with the far right. And the way that they do that is that they lie to the poor people by saying, we're here to protect you from those other guys who are trying to take your freedoms away. They're trying to take all your money through taxes. But the people who are benefiting from all the tax relief are the rich people, not the poor people. I paid far more taxes than Donald Trump ever did. I paid far more taxes than the Koch brothers did. The percentage of money that I put into taxes, I'm not even in the U.S. I have to pay U.S. taxes. I'm not even living in the U.S. The amount of money I put into taxes is far more than the Republicans who are sitting in the Senate, who are taking away all of the tax burden on the rich people. And all they have to do to keep you from seeing, oh, actually the guys on the left are actually working hard for my money and my freedom and my safety. The only thing they have to do is to come into you, because they know that you're uneducated, they know that you're full of fear, and they know that you don't know. All they have to do is just start filling you full of fear and saying, those Democrats are trying to take your freedoms away. They're trying to take your money away. The Democrats this, and somebody's trying to take it away from you. You don't know who. If you knew it was actually the people that you follow and vote into office. Because the other thing they have to do is they appeal to your base emotional connections, which are religious. So they tell you, I want you to hold on to your guns. I want you to be able to, I want to fight against other things that are important to you religiously, like abortion and same-sex marriage and all these hot-button emotional issues. And that's what you hold on to. That's why the religious right loves Trump. It's not because he's a religious man or believes in Jesus or in any way follows Christian moral teachings in any capacity. It's because he says, I'm going to protect your abortion rights and your freedom to, hate homosexuals and to have, racist ideology. I'm going to support that, and I'm going to take away the freedoms of those people and give you your religious rights to persecute other people. And so that's why they love him. But for no other reason. And that's what it means. It's so easy to placate the people who need the help the most, the people who are the most downtrodden. You're very easy to placate them because they're uneducated, because they are emotionally stimulated and feel left out. All you have to do is just feed them the propaganda of how that other side is trying to steal from you, and then it all becomes about that. And then, before long, Hillary Clinton is eating babies under a pizza parlor. It ends up there. I'm sorry if you can't see that. I really am. It saddens me. Say goodbye to democracy. If the United States can't pull up its diapers and figure out who it is, we can just wave goodbye to democracy. It's gone. As far as the future of humanity is concerned, the U.S. Constitution won't be worth the paper it's written on. It's a good foundational document, but growing out of date with the rate of global change. I don't disagree with that. Let's see. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Yeah. The COVID vaccine is going to turn you into a 5G antenna where somebody on the other end can manipulate you with a cell phone. Forget the fact that we already have it. It's called a cell phone. Cell phone, they track you with the cell phone. They don't need to stick a needle in you to do that. Let's see what else. Joe01 question, what are your thoughts about one single rune reading? I don't have a thought about it. I do it all the time. It's great. That's my thought. Let's see. Philip Church, do you do any ritual work for the winter solstice? I have. I haven't thought about it here because I'm in Australia and it doesn't feel like winter, so I haven't thought about it yet. Philip Church question, oh, I already answered that. T. Dan question, is Odin's sacrifice on the world tree and the sacrifice his eye related, or is there distinct interpretations? Well, I'm okay if they are related. Let's see, Odin's sacrifice on the world tree, the sacrifice of his eye. He really didn't sacrifice it in the same way that he sacrificed his life. He sacrificed his life, his ego, his tiny self for his big self. His eye wasn't sacrificed. He put it into Mimer's well, which means constantly knowing his essence, constantly knowing the past, memory. He doesn't want to forget. He wants to know the essence of himself and the truth. So his eye, it's not that his eye doesn't work, it's that his eye isn't in his head looking out here. His eye is looking constantly into the past and into the depth of the mystery from where we all came. You know, the word for priest in the Yoruba tradition is Babalawo, which means the father of great mysteries or the father of ancestors. Awo means mystery. It also means ancestors. It means this. It's the same word in Indo-European. Spanish, they still use the word. Abuelo, abuela, abuela. Mother, it literally means like mother ancestor, father ancestor. You have living ancestors, they're called your grandparents, but they also have mystery. Awo is mystery. So his eye is constantly in the well of deep mystery of the source of all things. He sees it, it's just not in his head. Let's see. Do you think Odin is Shiva? Yes, I've already said that numerous times. Go watch the channels where I've talked about that. I won't do that now. Nicole Taylor, all government is slavery. All taxes are theft. Okay. Yep. Try and live in a country where there isn't a ruling body. Go right ahead. See if you can do it. Try and have anything without a ruling body. Go ahead. See if you can do it. And try having a group of people come together and not share their stuff with each other. I mean, you can get rid of taxes, but then you're going to end up in a place where people have to, you end up, this is what people, when they try and get rid of money, they want to go to bartering. Well, there's no difference. If you want somebody to do something, you got to pay them, except you pay them with a cow or with an egg or, so Nickel Talia, I mean, it's time to grow up, pal. Let's see what else. I wish I could see where our taxes exactly went to. You can. Have you put any effort into finding that out? And by the way, went to is only 1 0, not 2 zeros. 200 is a different word. I wish we could see where our taxes exactly went to. You can do that if you put the effort into doing the research to find out. It's all there available for you. Fuck. It's just so frustrating. I mean, I'm not willing to put the effort in to go track down this and that, but you could find out right now. You want to find out exactly what your taxes go to pay for? You can figure that out. Put the effort into it. Jesus Christ, guys, grow the fuck up. Sideboard of Painter 22 questions. I would like to know, how would Jupiter and Saturn affect our energy on December 21st, 2020? Those are good questions. I haven't done enough look at it to say anything special other than, I've heard back and forth, Jupiter and Saturn coming together can be a really good thing because Jupiter will soften Saturn a little bit and Saturn will make Jupiter more practical. So it may turn into being a great time to practically get, your things done. Could be, I don't know. I need to look at it a little more. All government is based on coercion and violence. Yeah, grow up. All right, here we go. You're wasting my time now. You're just a troll, so we're going to say goodbye to you. Renee Healed Eagle. Question, how is solar eclipse affecting our 9-day rune spell challenge? Because today I had a meltdown. You may have had a meltdown for the same reason I had a meltdown, which was that we're heading towards this eclipse. But I'm also doing the 9-day rune challenge with you guys. So this is what happens when you do high-level energy work or high-level ritual, is that all of your stuff gets dislodged and comes to the surface. It means you're getting rid of old attachments and old false things which we are attached to. It's frightening. One of the reasons why, Nokentelia, for example, only wants to talk about how the government is bad and everything is evil is because he doesn't realize he has an emotional attachment to be afraid. Because if he actually realized that, he's responsible for, if he lives in the United States anyway, he's responsible for the government that is governing him, that who is ever, whatever's, either he's responsible for voting them in or not choosing to vote, or not educating himself on how to affect things in a democracy. He doesn't realize that if he let go of that fear and took responsibility, it would be a lot more frightening. Taking responsibility is a lot more frightening than actually, just being a child and blaming everybody else. So when we do rituals, we start to look at where we're like children and we see ourselves as victims, our narcissism, and then we start to take full responsibility. But we are emotionally attached. There is a payoff in being childlike, because if you just blame the government, then you don't have to do anything. You can stay poor and miserable and whatever else and smoke weed all day, and not have to actually work for a living and take responsibility for your life. That's a lot harder than sitting around playing video games and making blanket statements about how everything is this and everything is that. So Renee, you're obviously doing something right because you're coming apart at the seams. So lean into it. You're doing a good job. Cujo Adreno question, when starting the 9 knots, one it has begun, how do I touch the root with my 4 fingers? You just lift up your nutsack and touch underneath on your perineum. Just touch your perineum, that's all. Let's see, Donna Lily, that's what I was meaning, communism. Yes, I still love you and your guides. All right. Even then, I don't know what that means, Donna Lily, because that's thrown about a lot. If you watch Fox News, people are going to start throwing around the word communism and socialism, talking about democracy. And it's really frustrating. So, and usually they'll say something like that, except no socialism, no communism. And that bothers me because I don't know when I say communism and when Sean Hannity says communism, we're talking about 2 completely different things. So I don't know what you mean when you say that. So my apologies if I reacted without knowing. It just came across in a sentence that sounded so formulaic that it pushed that button in me. So that's my emotional agenda coming up. Steve Charlog question, do you have any wisdom or advice concerning the upcoming, I think I answered that already. Question, as a teacher, what is the advantage in being harsh? Asto, that's not an honest question. The 2 ways to get my attention are to ask an honest question and to share an honest feeling. So I don't know what your feeling is. Are you asking me this because you honestly want to know? Are you saying it because you think I'm too harsh with you? Do you like that I'm harsh? And the word advantage, I don't know what you mean by advantage. So what is the payoff? What is the benefit? So the benefit in being direct with people is that that's just, look, we talk about Jupiter. So the thunder god, right? Whether it's Thor or whether it's Indra, the thunder god, astrologically speaking, is Jupiter retrograde. Now, Jupiter, when he's direct, is Santa Claus. He's very loving, he's very giving, he's all kind, he does nothing but help and love and give. He loves people. And he always gives people the benefit of the doubt. They can step all over him and he'll forgive him and he'll keep giving them candy. But because his whole focus is people's spiritual benefit. His whole focus is to make sure that people are spiritually healthy and whole and happy. Now, when enough corruption comes into the mix, Jupiter turns retrograde and he becomes the thunder god. And so what he does is he shoots the lightning bolt at you and shocks the hell out of you. In fact, Mars is the leader of the army against the demons. So Mars goes out and fights the demons. But even Mars, the most powerful warrior in the universe, when Jupiter goes retrograde, Mars heads for the hills. Because there is nothing more powerful. There's no more powerful warrior than when Jupiter goes retrograde. And he goes after the root. The root of corruption comes from us. So the reason why I'm harsh with people and not co-signing their fear about other things and people in the universe is because I can see the corruption within themselves, their own narcissistic denial of their own corruption, which they're projecting onto other people. Because I can see that, I come at them very harshly to do my part to help wake them up. And if I am doing my job correctly as a teacher, which I'm not saying I always am, but if I am doing my job correctly as a teacher, and I sense that within somebody, I shoot the lightning bolt at them to wake them up to their own arrogance, to their own corruption within themselves, and then to do the self-healing, which is what spirituality is all about. Spirituality is not the Christian, which is pointing fingers at other people and telling people what they can and cannot do and judging other people. It's about self-judgment. When you can judge yourself and be the harshest and most loving critic of yourself, then you can be that example that other people will rally around. So that's the benefit. Again, I don't know what your agenda for asking that question was, whether that was an honest question or whether you were hiding your dislike of my harshness. I can't tell. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, you can see him there. That's his website. You can go there, and he's one of my certified astrologers. You can go get an astrology reading from him. Go to Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Dakota Spruill question: I know you've done West African drumming. Yes. Have you ever worked with West African deities? I wouldn't say in a really deep way. I haven't. And the reason why I didn't is because, I believe if you're going to do something, you should do it 100%. And when I played drums with my teacher, I mean, to answer, yes, I have, because the rhythms that I learned are very precise rhythms. They're actually they're rhythmic scientific equations that open up the portals to the ancestors. And so when I teach people how to drum, and when we drum, we do it right, you can tell there are other beings in the room. And people hear all kinds of strange things and feel things and see things. It's a real thing. So I guess I have. But have I, formally gone in and worked with them? No, I haven't. Because I think if you should do it 100%, and you should do it right. I never felt good like going, and even when I was playing with my teacher, I never felt good putting on African garb because I'm not African. And, so I don't like pretending to be something that I'm not. I don't call myself, other people call me Sifu, and I accept that, but I don't call myself Sifu. Even though I teach Taoist martial arts, I don't call myself that because that's not I got nothing against that culture. I just don't like pretending to be something I'm not. But that's just my choice. Other people can do different things, and that's okay. That's just my thing. Maybe that's my false humility. I don't know. Grace Me. Correction. America is a republic, not a democracy. That's actually accurate. Head the Way of question, off topic. What do you think of the Blood of Zeus animated series? I've never seen it. Never seen it. Okay, I don't see any more questions here. We've done a lot. You guys have allowed me to spout. I think I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish yesterday. I don't feel like I don't think I was out of my consciousness when I got harsh about things. I think I was in my consciousness. Yesterday I wasn't. I still don't know if I should. It's just, I just can't keep my mouth shut about some of this stuff. And I know I'm going to potentially lose subscribers over it. What are you going to do? Listen, I know if I didn't have if I had the ability, I probably would have turned into somebody else and said things that everybody wants to hear, just to have the 1 billion subscribers and be rich. But I can't live with myself if I do that. I got to tell you the truth. So I do. All right, there it is. One last question. Did your video get pulled? No, I took it off. I might put it back. I might put the original thing back up. But I had put up a video and then I was commenting for another hour afterwards. It's that hour afterwards that I decided to take off. Cujo Adreno question, what happened to your video yesterday? I just answered that. Okay, there you go. All right, guys, that's it. I will see you guys all next time.